like a really crazy prompting, like in my soul was like, he's next.
Mm.
And what's wild, since telling you that story yesterday evening, I've had that happen again.
Really?
Excuse me.
Like,
Sneezing.
Who's next?
yeah.
Hmm?
Who's next?
Well, don't worry. So what next? It's like the next invite. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And honestly, today worked just because, like scheduling, there was I had to reschedule someone else. Just their calendar didn't work out.
Mm.
So that's why I was like, hey, let's do the 23rd. We just pushed it right up front.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, it was this like, he's next. And I didn't know a lot of your story. You know, you and I have interacted, a good handful of times, but
Yeah.
only that first meeting had you shared some stuff with me that kind of, triggered the, are you in the military? And you're like, no, I wasn't in the military. My time overseas was this.
Right.
Or, you had mentioned martial arts background, but I didn't know the details of it. So
That was our first that was our first one-on-one conversation that really lasted like 5 or 10
Yeah.
minutes at most.
yeah, so we were at the Deco, and I met you because Brandon invited you, and we just kind of started talking, and we stood there and we chatted for a while until it was, whatever actually was going on actually started.
Yeah.
But in that, it was like there was enough there that I was like, I'm really curious about this guy. You know what I mean? And then you joined us for the round table.
Yeah.
And we got to talk a little more. But again, that was very topically. So it wasn't until yesterday when we sat down, kind of prepping for this, when you started going into your story, and I was blown away.
Wow.
Like just the reach of obedience, right? So in my life, it's been a lot of like the mentors in my life that went, hey, come with me. Took me under their wing and mentored me. And to hear that is wildly vital in your life. And the fact that it's been the same guy for, how old are you now?
43.
Right. So it's been the same guy for almost 40 years, 37 years, basically. Yeah, I mean, and maybe when you were 6 years old, it wasn't, that he was spiritually mentoring you. But the fact that, like, as an adult, that mentor in your life was somebody that God put you in front of at 6 years old is wild.
Yeah.
So, so we'll, like, I want to get into all of it. I want how Karate Kid changed your life.
Yep.
How you met your wife because of line dancing. How Victor Marx calls you after, 20 years of being in your life and goes, hey, it's time to, I need you to follow me to places full of sand. And it wasn't the beach.
It wasn't the.
All the way to like what you're doing now. And really some of that early conversation, we had that first conversation where it was about, kind of this path to restoration for women that had been rescued out of trafficking. So,
Absolutely.
but like not to put the cart in front of the horse. Like you've done really cool things. You're not allowed to skip the 15 world championships. You're not allowed to skip Grandmaster. You're not allowed to skip
Grand Championship.
Grand Championship. Sorry. By the way, in my head, you're just the Grandmaster now.
Okay.
And I don't know if that like other people in martial arts that hear this will be like, that's different. Yeah, or maybe you don't get to be a grandmaster. Maybe that's only in like distilling. I have no idea.
So I think when I got my 6th degree, I believe the 6th degree is considered a master level martial arts. So not the grandmaster, but a master level martial arts.
So we'll get to that. So all right, so go to kind of putting all of that out front. Like, start us off at 4.5 years old, watching Ralph Macchio just get it done, and the fact that that's like I make jokes about it, but that is wildly compelling to the rest of your life.
Right.
So go start there.
Yeah.
And we'll see where we go.
That's funny. Pat Morita, Ralph Macchio, Karate Kid. So I think we were watching it. It wasn't even when it came out. It had already come out, and we were watching it on TV. So it was on TV, and I'm this 4.5-year-old kid, and see the Karate Kid, and I'm just like, this is it. this is what I'm gonna do the rest of my life. like any 4.5-year-old would. What 4.5-year-old doesn't get moved by powerful movies?
Sure.
And so I told my parents right away. I'm like, I want to do karate. And like any parent of a 4.5-year-old, they, placated me. And they're like, okay, Jeff, yep, sure. Kind of biding their time until, until I see another movie, which then gets me caught on that. Oh, now I want to be a baseball player. Oh, then I see a astronaut movie and I want to be an astronaut. But that never happened. In a typical 4.5-year-old,
Right.
how long is their attention span?
Well, yeah, and that's why I was like, that's why I was curious. Like, is there something that kept compelling this? Because right, it's to your point, right? Like, okay, he'll watch The Sandlot, and then he'll just want to be a baseball player. By the way, I have no idea what year Sandlot came out. That may have not come out yet, but
Yeah, I don't know.
you know what I mean. But or
I saw that one. No,
or then
96.
96. Okay,
Yeah.
so we're not there yet.
We're
But
not there yet.
or you watch, or how many kids watched Apollo 13 and wanted to be an astronaut? You know what I mean?
Right.
Which unless they saw the ending, So, it wasn't Apollo 11. It was Apollo 13. It did not go as well.
Right.
So it's like nobody watches Captain Phillips, and they're like, I'm going to be a captain.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. But so all right. So hey, I want to get into martial arts.
Yep. And so I was like a broken record. And it took like a year and a half before my mom was like, oh, wow, this is not normal. And she would say that I was spiritually stuck, right? Like there's some type of spiritual thing, because that's not common for a 4-year-old to be stuck on something like that for that long. And so, my mom went to my dad and was like, hey, I think we need to get Jeff into martial arts. And my dad was like, we do baseball.
Like a good American dad in the 80s.
We do baseball. His dad, he played baseball. His dad, it was baseball. We were a baseball family, Dodgers, Padres, and Southern California. So those were our teams, and that's what his answer was we do baseball.
So what changed it?
My mom. So my mom was a 5-foot tall, blonde-haired lady, and she just had a way of applying her thumb to the small of someone's back to kind of gently push them in the right direction, and she got her way at some point. However long that took, I'm not sure. I was still 6-ish, so wasn't really tracking it. And but then my mom came and said, hey, we're going to start looking for a karate school.
Okay. So what, like karate schools, martial arts now, mixed martial arts, very popular, right?
Yep.
Not that way in the, we roughly about late 80s at this point.
Yeah.
Not that way then.
It's like 1986, 1987. Yeah, there was no MMA. That wasn't even a thing.
But again, it's all also like very Eastern culture. Your martial arts dojos are still very Eastern, still from their origin countries, still very based in that.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, Japan, Korea, Okinawa, China, it's most of the dojos and the karate schools were taught by people from those countries, or maybe you have like a military guy that gets stationed out there, picks up the art, and then brings it here. But yeah, it's all outside influence coming to the U.S. And that was probably one of the biggest stumbling blocks for my mom, because she would go to a place, see what they were doing, and then they'd have, spiritual component like Buddhas and Hindu stuff that was going on. And she was like, we had Christian values. I had a very Christian value upbringing. And so she was like, I don't want to put my son in a school like that where he's going to be subject to that. And so it actually took her a little while. So she would actually go to karate schools and then come back and tell me, hey, I looked at a couple karate schools and they're not going to be a good fit. And I was like, okay, you'll look for some more, right? And she'd be like, yeah, I'll go find, we'll keep looking. And I was like, all right. And just like patient. as a 6-year-old, right? What 6-year-old's going to be? So it was just kind of another thing that my mom really saw that was pretty stuck out to her. And I think it took a year. So I was like 6.5 or, yeah, because I think it was 1980. I think I have an old trophy that says 86, but I don't know if that's correct. So 86 or 87 is when I start martial arts. But we first had to find a place. And so at that time, my mom pulled me out of school. So I went to kindergarten and first grade. And so I'm ADHD. So that's hyperactive attention deficit disorder.
Okay.
And then I'm a little dyslexic as well. So I have a little hard time reading. I used to have a hard time writing my name, actually. I used to have old homework papers that they give you. And at the very top of the page in the top left, there's the first thing that you're supposed to do is do what?
You got to write your name.
You got to write your name.
Yeah. It literally just says name.
It just
has
says
a
name.
line.
Yeah, it just says
Yeah.
name. That was my first stumbling block as a kid because I would go, the first letter of my name, Jeff, also looks like a T. So I'd flip the page over and I could look back on old homework sheets where I'd write Jeff and Tef over and over and try to figure out which one looks like my name.
You're just comparing them on the back
I'm
side.
just comparing. I'm like, that one looks like it. So, anyways, So there was also things being taught in school that my mom wasn't happy with as well. So she pulled me out of school, and my sister as well, and homeschooled us. And so it was through homeschool, and this was like back alley homeschool days. All right, like there was a hotline that you called. No one was doing it, and they sent you this massive book. And they were like, bring him in for testing every 8 months, or 6 to 8 months. And like that was it.
Yeah, just kind of make sure you guys are still progressing correctly.
Just make sure you're still progressing. And so then my mom got involved with a group that was doing some type of craft fair. And we went to this craft fair, and they ended up having a demo from a martial arts school. And so it was this guy, Victor Marx, and 3 of his black belts at the time. And they did a martial arts demonstration. He got up at the end and actually gave a little bit of his testimony as well. And I'm pretty sure we signed up the next day.
Gotcha. I mean, at this point, your mom's hook, line, and sinker
Yeah,
at this point.
She's in.
She found
She's like,
somebody that could teach her son karate who has Christian principles and values.
absolutely. And so, yeah. So, I mean, we sign up the next day. So I get enrolled in the class then and start training. And so, yeah. So around 6.5.
Yeah, so you're 6, 7 years old. You finally are now in a dojo. You've started into it. And, I mean, it's not long before, before you're literally running the dojo.
Relatively, yeah. So comparison.
So how do we get to you running the dojo to you winning, world championships? Like how do we get there? Because you're 7 years old and you're brand new to this idea that you saw in a movie with what was it called? The swooping crane, flying crane? I don't know. The crane, whatever.
The crane.
Whatever that move was that we all tried to pull off as kids to like pillows and our brothers, basically. Like so whatever that was. But so I mean, you're 7 years old. You get involved in it. I mean, and you're, eventually in the story, we're going to get to you in your 30s competing. Cause still at that point. But what's how do we get to you running the dojo and this relationship with Mr. Marx?
So, really interesting, because I wasn't really good. I wasn't really good at all. I mean, I came in the dojo and Mr. Marx was like, what am I going to do with this kid I had these really big hands and big feet compared to my body. So I'm like, kind of like, how you get puppies and you're like, oh, he's going to be a really big dog because he's got these massive paws. That was like me. They didn't know what they were going to do with me. They would have conversations together. What are we going to do about Crothers? he's like not getting it. And so I was reading through a journal that my mom gave me. That's actually her talking. She's journaling about me being in class, and she's mentioning class, and she's like, "Yeah, Jeff's at about the middle half of the lower half of the class." So
That's the bottom quarter.
that's the bottom quarter. Yeah,
You're in the bottom 25%.
I'm in the bottom 25%.
But it's a really lovely way that your mom wrote it.
It's really lovely.
Very nice of her.
Yeah. So, so lots of trial and error. I mean, I just started going every day, all the time, and then I started helping. So they actually the instructor, Mr. Marx, and then Mr. Marx's dad, who's the one who started the system, actually came in as well, and then I was actually being his little assistant and like helping with stretching classes out and actually starting to kind of help teach at a very young age, like at an orange belt, which is the third belt, like white, yellow, orange. And so I was starting to teach just a little bit, just with like some little kids. And then I just kept going and started getting better and better. I mean, day after day, 5 days. I think I was going 5 days a week. So I was training, and then I got my black belt, tested for my black belt when I was 12.
Okay, so you're 5 years in. It's not a natural thing. You don't pick it up immediately. You're not the instant sensation in the dojo where they're going, that kid's going to be a dude.
Right.
They're going, we got to find a place for this kid. We got to figure him out.
Yeah.
And yet 5 years of just like, what kind of 8-year-old, 9-year-old, 10-year-old is just like, I'm going to drill this thing 5 days a week and help out, knowing that like on some level you knew you weren't just a natural.
Right. Yeah. But I just loved it.
That's awesome.
I just loved it. Like I was like, this is what I want to do. Like I'm gonna get good at this. It's just gonna take me time. Like,
right.
I'm just gonna figure this out. I'm just gonna go. I just need to do the things, and I knew it was gonna happen, and it was fun. And you have one of the things I like about martial arts is you have the team environment, but then it's individually based though. Unlike sports.
Mm-hmm.
It's a team environment, and your ability to perform affects the team.
Right.
In those, have you tried golf?
Yeah, okay, yeah, no, haven't tried golf.
You say
no.
Golf is the individual sport I like to play just to remind myself that there's lots of things I'm really bad at, but it's so fun.
Yeah.
And you know what? No one's ever trying to punch me
No.
or kick me or throw me off a mat.
Yeah.
I can make a list for next time we golf.
Right. You just quick YouTube search and you're gonna find videos of dudes fighting on golf courses.
Yeah.
It never happened. Like I just want to be the guy pulling up to the tee box, seeing people fighting down on the green, and just because I'll film it. I'm not going to help. Oh, I'm gonna film it. I may try to slide a microphone in there just to get the audio.
That's funny.
So, but all right. So
That's
you're
funny.
So I mean, but you're in it. You love it.
Yep.
So you go black belt by 12.
I go black belt at 12.
Okay.
And it's at that point that I tell my parents, like, hey, I want to do this when I grow up. Like, when I get older, I want to teach martial arts and do this deal. And I think I was still actually doing baseball a little bit at that time as well. But yeah, I just knew that I wanted to do that. And
you had shared that while you're doing martial arts and you're playing baseball, that there was conflict between those two.
yeah.
Right? I think you said maybe going into high school or somewhere around there is where you kind of let baseball go.
Yep. So junior high was so I played from T-ball all the way up to seventh grade. So junior high. So like till I was 14 or 13 or something like that. 14 probably.
Why did you let baseball go?
So at the same time that I was doing baseball, I was doing martial arts, and we were involved in martial art tournaments. So one of the things that happened early on, or actually at that, not yet, but I started doing tournaments. It was a great place to go and compete and grow, and you could actually run the circuit to get points for the national point standings, kind of like NASCAR. You win one race, you get points that apply to the point total at the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
So they had that for every division with every level. And so we decided, my dad and I he's like, hey, I want to let you go run the circuit this year and do as many tournaments as we could. So there's a good amount of tournaments in California, and then there was a good amount of tournaments in Arizona, like one a month in Arizona, basically. And so we started going to these tournaments, and they were always on Saturday or Sunday. I can remember we actually did one weekend in Arizona where they did one on Saturday, and then they did one on Sunday as well. And so those were awesome times, but sometimes it would coincide with a baseball game.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really hard because it's like, I'm doing the karate thing, but I'm also leaving my team, my baseball team, and not being there. And yeah, that very last year, I was like, I can't do that again, but I'm absolutely continuing to do the tournament stuff. And so I knew I just couldn't commit to what it would take, especially going into high school and the amount of demand that it would have there. Mm-hmm. And, but no, it's super funny. It just brought, mentioning driving to Arizona. So Arizona was 400, Phoenix was 404 miles from my parents' house in Carlsbad, California. And so
you were in Carlsbad?
We were in Carlsbad, California, okay. Yeah. And so
I know Carlsbad well. I've got good friends in
really?
Cardiff, right up the road.
Oh yeah, my dad's still in Carlsbad at the same house from when I started karate. And so 404 miles. He'd wake me up at like 3 a.m. in the morning. The tournament was staggered start, so you'd have your time that you're supposed to be there to go. You don't have to be there in the morning. We would drive to Arizona, so 400 miles. I remember on one time they had this Burger King special. You could get, 2 Whoppers for like $2. It was like the two for $2.
Yeah.
Back in the day. And so.
The 99-cent Whopper eventually became a thing after the 2 for $2 was such a hit.
Yep. And so we would go and do this tournament. We would spend $4 on food. So we'd hit Burger King on the way up there. We might spend a little more, but we hit Burger King on the way up there.
I just love that you're crushing 2 Whoppers on a 400-mile drive as your prep for the tournament.
My dad's eating one. I'm eating the other one.
Oh,
okay, yeah. So we get there. We do the tournament, probably scarf a hot dog from the concession stand at the tournament, get back in the car, drive back.
Like a Burger King stop on the way home also?
And a Burger King stop on the way home also. So, yeah.
Peak athletic fighting posture is to live on a steady weekend diet of concession stand hot dogs and Whoppers from Burger King.
Absolutely.
That's something you can only do when you're a child.
Yeah.
If I ate Burger King Whoppers regularly, we'd have to get an extra wide chair just to do this.
It's the Michael Phelps diet of just like 8,000 calories.
Yeah, it's wild.
Crazy. Yeah. So that was kind of the first year that I ran the circuit, and it was really good for me because then I really got out to see all the organization that we were in was a really good one. It's called the United States Karate Alliance. They were an open organization to all types of martial arts. So we were competing against all types of martial arts, not like just ours.
Gotcha.
Because ours was super small. And so that was good. And then kind of the next pivotal moment was probably right around 13. My instructor, before that. So Mr. Marx actually ended up going and moving to Louisiana and then for a little bit, and then moved to Northern California. Probably when I was younger. I actually only trained from him for 2.5 years.
Okay.
And then it was under his dad.
Gotcha. Okay.
And his name's Karl Marx.
I've heard of him.
Probably not the same one.
Not the same one, but spelt.
Exactly. Karl.
Karlmarx. Good old Cajun Bayou, Louisiana folk. They had they had no idea.
Well, this is probably why you were, kind of slow to get up and run, and you can't understand a word he's saying.
Right.
And it makes sense too why Victor would have moved back then to Louisiana for a little bit.
See, he moved back there for a little bit, and then went to Lompoc, California. Opened up a school. Was seeing a ton.
Lompoc?
Lompoc. Do you know where Lompoc is?
No, I don't. But there are a lot of great names of towns in California.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
All right. So he comes back, and he's how far from you now?
5 hours.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's a big place, big
Yeah.
state. So he's clear across.
He's clear across.
Okay.
And then he needs help. So his dad, Carl, we called him Soka. He moved up there to go help Mr. Marx.
Okay.
And left the dojo in charge with one of the top black belts, a guy named Paul Claudio. And he was going to college, working a job, and it was just not going well. And so when I was 14, Mr. Marx and Soka came down and had a meeting with my parents and basically said, hey, we're going to need to close the school down. And but we thought we'd come and ask you guys if you're interested at all in taking it over. And so at that time, I'm a black belt. Okay, I'm 14. My mom had just started training. She was
Your mom got in.
My mom got in.
All right.
My mom was a bad mamma jamma.
Yeah?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
All 5 feet of her?
All 5 feet of her.
All
Yep.
right.
And
let me, if I can jump in, where's your dad at in this, right? Because you still played baseball the whole time, and Dad was kind of the, I don't know, he needed the, as you said, the thumb in the small of his back from your mom.
Yep.
Like he obviously he turns the corner. He's super pro karate at this point, or martial arts at this point, because he's now driving you 800 miles round trip for tournaments.
True.
So is he fully on board and loves, sees your passion and loves your passion for it, and that's his buy-in? Or is there still any hesitation about martial arts at this point? I mean, if you're 14 at this point, you're at least 7 years in.
Yeah. I think he was committed because he was dropping bills to take me me to these tournaments. I mean,
he's dropping coin to get. Well, it could have just been the Whoppers.
Well, yeah.
So could have just loved road trips and Whoppers.
Yeah.
So
road trips and Whoppers. Yeah.
Yeah. We haven't gotten into home life. Maybe there's some like siblings you were trying to.
Frugal,
he was fleeing.
Frugal.
So.
No.
Yeah.
So he was. Yeah. I mean, to me, he seemed in it. So
I just think that understanding that maybe is like, because we didn't get to that. I don't.
Yeah.
I know that I know that this part takes place, but I didn't know that it's a sit down conversation with you and your parents about taking over the dojo and that it was potentially going to close.
Yeah. So they're faced with the fact of, oh gosh, our son's dojo is going to close, or he can take.
And the rest of them are just Buddhist temples, or
Yeah.
I mean? So.
Yep. And so my dad was a really good businessman.
Okay.
And I don't even know at what time frame. My dad's an incredible individual. He is the American dream story of coming into a company at the bottom level and then becoming the president, working to buy the company back from the marketing company, and then he's the one with the most shares.
He just bootstraps himself from the ground all the way.
He goes from the ground all the way up,
and ended up owning part of the company.
Yes,
that's wild.
Yeah, so he was the president, and then not the major, so he didn't have over 50%, but he was the person that had the most, the most shares. Just an incredible story for that.
Very cool.
So we got into it. And we took over the karate studio. I started teaching.
Now, do your parents buy the dojo, or are they just operating the dojo for Mr. Marx and Soka?
They buy it.
Wow.
And I don't know how much they buy it.
Yeah.
I don't even know if
I wouldn't ask that question.
No, but I don't even know if there was an exchange. It was like,
gotcha.
This dojo's barely making any money, guys. If you want to take it over, you can, or we're just closing it.
Sure.
I don't know if it was just kind of a handoff.
And is that how much is that the relationship that you have with them, and how much of that is that there's also a greater need of these other students that are there and wanting to provide for them?
Yeah, of them offering it to us.
Mhm.
I don't know. I really think, if I remember right, I really think that Mr. Marx just heard from the Lord that says, "What about the Crothers? Like, ask the Crothers. Like, just what?" And he was like, "I never thought about the Crothers." It's like
He follows a prompting.
he follows. I really think he followed a prompting for that conversation, and it's like, okay,
Very cool.
And so we take over. My mom is a yellow belt. And
That's the second one?
Second
right? White,
one.
yellow, orange? You just, okay.
White, yellow.
Okay.
So she's yellow.
Right, I would say, because you were orange, right? So
Yeah.
white, yellow, she's on her second belt.
Yep.
She's newish to martial arts.
Yep.
And now her and your dad are running a dojo.
Yep. And she has to put a black belt on because legally, insurance-wise, there had to be a 18-year-old black belt on the floor. So insurance-wise.
So mom's a yellow belt wearing a black belt.
Mom's the yellow belt wearing a black belt, and she hated it.
Sure.
So bad. And she ended up getting her black belt like a year and a half later. Like, she got it super quick.
Gotcha.
She was like,
busted a hump to get there.
yep. She was like, I can't believe I have to wear this thing and be a yellow belt. And so, yeah, we did that for a couple years. And then then my mom and I were teaching together. We were teaching together for a while until I was 18. And then she actually went and started a little club at another church, and she was teaching over there.
Your mom's starting fight clubs at churches?
Starting fight clubs.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Vista Christian School. She was teaching there, and I don't remember when it was. My
She
dad
sounds like an incredible woman.
Yeah. And I know my dad was 45 when he was like, all right, I'm going to start training.
So your dad gets into martial arts.
So my dad gets in and gets his black belt. And it's always funny. One of his favorite things is him and I are now going to we're going to tournaments together, but he's a black belt. And so immediately when other black belts come around, they have a really big assumption. When they see a father and a son, they make a really quick assumption and go, Dennis, you must be Jeff's instructor, right? And my dad loved that because it's the opposite. He's like, actually, no, my son's my instructor. And so cool, like, cool moment for that. So
That's awesome.
So my mom was technically my first black belt that I trained, and then I also trained my dad.
That's awesome.
So
you're 18, right?
Yeah.
Youth kind of runs out, right? So like, what's the transit? How different was it? Like, I know at 18, right? You shared with me that you started. Now you're competing in the adult division.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
how different is it going from youth to adult? Right, because like you got I would imagine there's probably like age brackets or something, kind of pretty traditional in all youth sports or whatever. You know what I mean? But sports and arts are typically bracketed. But do adults do that?
So,
or is it just like a free for all?
So they well, yes and no.
Okay.
So at the big enough tournaments, they have brackets. At the smaller tournaments, it's just kind of like there's 8 of you. You're all together, right? But yeah, in the youth divisions under 18, it was always 2-year age brackets.
Okay.
So 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, advanced, intermediate, or beginner. So you get into the adult black belt division, and it's black belts 18 to 35 is the division. And so, yeah, I mean, I reflect back on I've been 35 fighting the 18-year-old black belts, and I'm like, bro, my belt has been around my waist longer than you've been training.
Right.
Like, I've been fighting in the adult black belt division longer than you've even been training in martial arts. It's a huge curve. Huge. So age, I mean, think 18-year-old, 35-year-old.
Right.
Like, and then if there aren't the other divisions, you could be going up against 40, 45-year-olds. And so, yeah, I mean,
were you ever in the same division at a tournament, like a smaller tournament, you and your dad?
So,
Did that ever happen?
Yes.
Did you ever get to fight him?
No.
Okay.
No. No. But we did. A cool story though is we did get to compete. It was actually I think it was one of the world championships that we went to, or maybe a national. It was a national or world championship. My dad won first in his old man division, and then I won first. So we got to be on stage together, like competing against each other. You know, in the same division, which we wouldn't normally be in the same division. So he'd be in the executive black belt.
Gotcha.
And whatnot.
Is that what they call it, executive?
Executive, yes. Yeah,
That's
the
good. Your
executive.
dad got to be an executive in multiple areas of his life.
Yes.
They didn't just openly call it the old man
They
division.
just called the senior old man. Yeah.
Right.
No,
The
executive.
geriatric black belt division.
So, yeah. So, you just there's a huge learning curve when you're 18 and you're getting in the ring, and so there's a little bit of time, and I mean I kind of quickly, I guess I quickly picked it up. I started getting quite a bit better at that point, because then I ran for points again when I was 21.
Okay. I was gonna say, like, there's a big piece here that you're being very modest about, is that you start winning a lot of stuff.
I started winning a lot of stuff.
So, like, what, like I know your faith is important to you, and I know your faith then was very important to you, right?
Yeah.
So, and there's, if I'm not mistaken, there's a period, right, where you kind of get away from your faith, but it's, you got to tell us about the accomplishments, right? Because that's the story the Lord's writing about, what the doors he opened for you, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, I've got about 15, I would say, national and world championship titles.
Kind of combined.
National
and world champion.
Oh, no, like in each.
Oh.
Not combined.
Oh.
15 national titles and 15 world championship titles, not combined.
That's not in my notes.
Okay.
I thought we were doing a cumulative number of 15.
Oh, yeah. No.
Oh.
Like 15.
I like how you were like
15
not
of these.
really wanting to jump into you have 30 plus titles to your name.
You didn't make him wear his medals in or anything.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
now that I know that there's 30 of them, he would have had a neck problem, and we'd
Yeah.
be getting him like a chiropractor appointment.
For sure.
So just tell your chiropractor to send us the bill. Gavin, you're paying that, by the way.
It's not a very good chiropractor. I can't afford a nice one.
Yeah.
Chiropractors. Yeah.
So, all right. So you win all this stuff as an adult, but like, help me understand, like, so there's nationals, there's worlds, like where does that kind of fall in line in the timeline? Was that just progressive throughout, or?
Yeah, kind of progressive throughout. Like because with all the different divisions, like I'd win my young fighting division, and so then that's a world championship title, right? Or my kata or weapons. So I competed in 3 different categories. So kata, which is forms or your pattern.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's the same version of that, but with weapons, where you do a form or a pattern with weapons.
Okay.
And then the other one was fighting or kumite.
Gotcha.
To where, you get to hit people.
And I'm familiar with kata and kumite just from my niece's training in it. And I never realized that kata just meant form and kumite was actually like, was combat.
Yeah.
But I do know that I was always very confused by like the kata, because it's like they're just alone on the mat.
Yeah.
And I have no concept of what a judge would be looking for in that. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know, like your bad one and your good one kind of look the same to me, just with, kind of naive, not with naive eyes,
Right. Yep. Yeah, they have a whole all the judges, they're going to have a whole set of criteria that they're looking for: timing, speed, consistency, power, phrasing, intensity. I mean, all those things will come into play, balance to how they're judging that.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
So where in that, or we're, I mean, by now, I mean, you're late 20s with all of these titles under your belt.
Right. Yep.
Where's the faith component come in for you? Obviously raised in a Christian home.
Yeah.
Where does God come into your story? Like, where does that intersect?
So that intersects when 1991. So I'm 10.
Mm-hmm.
And during that time, I'm learning from Mr. Marx's dad, Carl. And on Tuesday nights, we actually go from the regular dojo. My mom packs us dinner, and we go to a Calvary Chapel church to teach a 2-hour class there once a week. And he's bringing me along as his little student helper.
Okay.
So I'm 10, so I must be like, I don't know, green, purple, brown. Maybe I could have been 9 too. But anyways, we would drive, he had this Volkswagen yellow Bug. And Soka was
which just screams masculinity.
Screamed masculinity.
Did it have like the little Bobby flower on the dash?
No,
I know that.
The Bobby flower. So Soka was a good old Cajun guy. He was stocky and thick, and he had these massive forearms. But and so him getting in the little yellow Volkswagen Bug is also funny.
Yeah, it's comical.
So he would always put in tracks as we're driving. And my mom had always told me, "Hey, yeah, you're saved. Like, you accepted Jesus." And I'm like, "Well, when?" Like, when you were like 5 or something. I'm like, "Okay." I'm like, "I don't remember." and I'm thinking to myself, this is kind of a big deal. And it's probably something that I should remember as a statement in my life of, hey, I'm believing in Jesus and following Christ.
Correct. Your own profession of faith, as opposed to I was just raised with my parents' faith.
Well, true, yeah. But she had said that I professed it at 5. I just can't remember.
Sure.
So I asked Soka in the car, I'm like, hey, so how do you know you're saved, or how do you get saved, or, and I think he pulled over and we had a conversation, led me to the Lord, and, so we had a really cool experience. And so I'm like I'm a green or a purple belt. I'm still 2 years away from my black belt.
Okay.
So to kind of tie this story in, I get my black belt. And when you get your black belt, you get an instructor's handbook. And in the handbook, Soka gives me the handbook. And on the inside flap, there's a letter written to me. And it's dated 1991, February 13th, which is the day after I accepted the Lord in his Volkswagen Bug. And so he goes home and he goes, Jeff's going to be a black belt one day, and I'm going to write him a letter in something he's only going to get when he's a black belt. And then he just wrote that in there and then held on to it and then presented that to me, which is pretty stinking cool.
That's really cool.
Right?
You still have it?
I still have it, yeah.
That's really, really, really cool, man.
Yeah. And so, yeah, so faith was kind of a part of what we were doing. And, kind of like my biggest, I started falling away from the Lord in my early or late teens, early 20s, kind of my last big, I did good in competitions, but my last, my most significant one was when I ran the points. I won the Triple Crown as the youngest person to do it, the 4th person in the organization to do it. And then it was just kind of, my discipline factor wasn't there. And so it started to affect all aspects of my life, because I was really going the way of the Lord, or way of the world, not of the Lord, the way of the world. And, really kind of jumping into drinking, drugs, and just went down a long spiral with that, and it came to a really desperate place for me personally, where I needed counseling, and one of the things that I share with people sometime, which is a little bit different, is that the negative conversations that were happening inside my head were at such a level that I started cutting myself.
Wow.
As a mid to young or a mid 20-something-year-old world champion black belt, right? But I started cutting myself habitually, like it was a thing, and it just consumed me for a little while, and it was actually really hard to get out of it. And one of the things that helped me get out of it, and I don't know if you've ever heard this, but I just lost the phrase. You'll get stuck in your secrets, or your sins will keep you stuck in your secrets, or something along those lines.
Okay.
Anyways, where it's like if you don't talk about them, they can really hold you captive. And it was when I sat down. I had a counselor. I actually had been through a counselor. I'd been to one or two counselors. I was on like my third one, and still haven't told. And I finally actually told the person that I was doing that, and thankfully that was the last day that I had an issue of cutting myself.
So there's scriptural reference to that about how like we confess our sins to the Lord for forgiveness, and to one another, our brothers, to find healing.
Yeah.
So, and I don't have that scriptural reference in my head.
But yeah, that's certainly a real thing, because it was.
But that's wild that the thing that got a hold of you is something that you would not traditionally associate with adult males, right? Unfortunately, kind of the self-mutilation, the cutting, that is so widely associated with kind of teenage girls, you know what I mean? And it's which is awful, but to think that that's what got a hold of you, and then confessing that to somebody else is where you found healing. Yeah.
And then I later found healing actually when I was from a friend, and it was a gal that I'd shared my struggles with at the time, and she actually I'd had a tattoo drawn up for like since I was 18, and I think I got the tattoo when I was third. I got my first tattoo when I was like 30 or something. I got it like
you waited so long.
I waited so long. Yeah, I did. But I revised it a little bit, because she said, Jeff, well, do you know where you're going to get your tattoo? And I'm like, no, I don't know. She's like, why don't you put it over your scars? And I was like, that's such a good idea. And then that brought to my mind the scripture, Psalm 33, where it says, blessed is he whose sins are forgiven, whose sins are covered over. And so I have a literal covering over on my body of some of those scars, and so it's a big redeeming factor.
That's powerful, dude.
For me.
Yeah, that's really powerful.
So that was so I finally got my first tattoo that I drew up, and it's like 15. I think it was like 15 years after I drew it. Just never pulled the trigger.
I also think it's really cool that you drew it, you designed it. Like, I've got a lot of tattoos. I've not drawn any of them. I've been very specific about what I wanted, but I've always trusted other people to draw those for me. And then I've sat with those for a long time to make sure that I felt good about what those were going to really mean in my life. But like, just the fact that you drew your own tattoos, and how poetic of this girl to speak that into your life, to just, have that piece where, you could legitimately cover that sin.
Yeah.
So,
No,
or
absolutely.
that manifestation of the sin in your life, or what. So,
Right.
however you want to word that, but
Yeah. So, yeah. So I mean, faith. So it was a really long. I mean, it was a really long faith journey, and I mean, Mr. Marx was kind of in and out of it, kind of that whole time, and very far away, but we were still in contact, and he was actually the one that helped kind of pull me out of kind of helped me pull me out of my spiral. So, if you ever get the chance to go online and watch the Victor Marx story, you'll be able to hear his background, and he will talk about
he had a wild childhood.
Yeah, wild childhood, which led to him seeing a trauma counselor like 136 times in like 9 months, like a crazy amount of sessions.
Wow.
And so he was up north about an hour from me, but guess where the counselor was? Down by me and the dojo. And so he would call me up and be like, "Hey, I'm going to be in the area. You want to grab coffee?" And he's coming down and meeting up with me, and he's going through a terrible time in his life. Like, he's going through a rough time, going through some major counseling stuff. And, and here I am, like, just sideways. I'm pretty sideways in life. And he's like, "Yeah, get yourself up. We're going to the International House of Pancakes. We're getting some pancakes." And, I mean, he just kind of came in and, really helped, made the small adjustments in my life that I needed, which nobody else knew about. And nobody else really had the authority, like my good buddy. We were doing all the stuff together.
Sure.
It's not like he can say anything. My parents didn't know anything about what I was doing. They maybe had suspicions, but
Right.
But I didn't really have anybody in my life that could really come in and say much to get much change from me.
But you had surrendered authority to speak into your life to Mr. Marx.
Yep. He's kind of still that one figure that I wouldn't not listen to.
Yeah.
to an extent. Yeah. So that was that's the spiritual journey, and that took me into my mid to late 20s, where I kind of turned the corner and really started falling back with the Lord.
That's awesome. So, if I'm jumping forward, by all means, cut me off. But so not too long after this, he again calls you to now go do something different with martial arts and actually going into the nonprofit space.
Yes. So he's now back in California. He's running a ministry called All Things Possible Ministries, ATP. And he's got a center, and he's got a dojo space where he wants to teach and train people as part of the ministry. So, and he had a couple junior black belts that were teaching, and he was speaking. He was still traveling and speaking like 75 to 100 times a year as a speaker. So he couldn't.
Right, and he's traveling as a speaker just like on his own testimony and story of redemption. And
Yes. So he was traveling at that time. He was going around to youth prisons, and then churches would have him come in as well. And so he'd go, he'd get contracted to go speak at a church, and then they'd find like juvenile facilities in the area, and then he'd go speak in there as well.
I mean, and his story, Victor Marx's story, is widely available on a lot of platforms. Absolutely. In multiple conversation settings.
Yes.
So, I mean, podcasts and the whole nine. So,
yeah. Oh, for sure.
But
yeah.
But he calls you to ATP.
Yes.
So you move.
Yes. And
this is your first time moving. It's your first time leaving the area you grew up in, right?
Yeah, true. And I actually told him no at first.
Oh, really?
I did. I was like, so I was teaching martial arts 6 days a week.
Still at the same dojo.
So I'm at the same dojo.
Yeah.
So I'm at the same dojo.
That your parents own, by the way.
Well, yeah. I mean, I I technically owned it.
Oh, did you end up owning it?
Yeah, they
gotcha,
passed
okay,
it. They
yeah.
passed it off to me and stuff. So,
Right.
but my dad and I still. My dad would still come down once a week and teach with me and stuff.
That's
So,
awesome.
but then, but the dojo wasn't super profitable. So I was also working, 7 to 3, at a warehouse.
Gotcha.
So I was working 7 to 3, coming to the dojo, teaching Monday through Saturday. And Mr. Marx was like, hey, I want you to come up and teach a couple classes. And I'm like, I don't have, oh no, I was not at that. I was actually a temp at my dad's company. I was doing temp work at my dad's.
Like at some point, you're just like,
Yeah.
Dad, I'm going to need a job.
Yeah. Like, hey.
You know that payroll I'm not getting at the dojo? I'm going to need some help.
So I was
Shout out to
yeah.
your dad again.
Shout out to my dad again. So I was in the assembly line. So my dad worked for, it was a huge aircraft company. Hughes Aircraft.
Not like TWA, right?
No,
Just kidding. That was an airline that went defunct shortly after that.
Oh, okay. But yeah, Hughes Aircraft, big company. But then they got bought out by Palomar Display Products, that branch.
Mhm.
So then he was the president of that, but they still did military contracting. So I got to work on a bunch of it was like the BICU units that would go into the M1 tank. Like I got to
Pause.
You don't
I'm
know what
so
a
confused.
BICU
First of all, I have no
unit
idea what a
is?
BICU
Yeah.
is.
okay.
Also, how are you? It's an aircraft company, and then you tell me that you're working on parts going into M1 tanks. I'm so confused.
They have
Yeah.
jet engines.
So Palomar or Hughes was doing a lot of military contracting. So Hughes,
As a lot of those companies tend to do.
Yep. So Hughes Aircraft, they first really got really big because they were making missiles and bombs.
Gotcha.
But then they had a whole line of then they started doing displays in manned vehicles and Humvees and stuff.
Gotcha.
So then
And that DICU, that's the display unit essentially with inside of the.
yeah, whatever. Well, whatever they call it. So when the gunner, think of the gunner in the tank looking through, shooting the big gun. He's looking through the optics and the red and the infrared of this thing that my dad's company builds and puts together.
Gotcha.
And so, I mean, it's like 40, 50 pounds. And so I basically got to do all the environmental testing of it. So I'd put it in freezers. I'd put it in a heater. I'd strap it down to this vibration machine.
Yeah, like a gyration machine.
Yep.
You just want to make sure that it's going to stand up
Yeah.
in whatever conditions
Yep.
that tank may end up in.
Yeah. So my dad's company
Also
produced-
sounds
yeah.
like the best temp job.
Yeah.
That's way
Yeah.
cooler than any temp job I ever worked.
So I wish I could have done that more. But then there was other things where I'm working on like little units where I'm like doing screws and
No.
doing
Tedious
tedious stuff. Anyways.
Sure.
So I'm working there. Yeah. So I'm working there teaching martial arts. Mr. Marx is like, come up and I'm like,
And it's still far enough away that this isn't like, hey, just commute. You got to move.
yeah, no, it was like an hour. It was like an hour.
Okay.
So like
all right.
I could have,
Sure.
but it was like I'm already teaching 6 days a week and working a full-time job. I don't know how I'm going to do that. So he finally wore me down, and I'm like, okay, I'll come teach on Saturday. He's like, how about you just teach Saturday? I'm like, awesome. We're going to teach on Saturday. And he must have called me on like a Sunday or something. And he's like, okay, Jeff. He's like, let's go home and pray about it. And let's just pray about it, and then we'll talk tomorrow. So tomorrow I go into work at 7:30 and get laid off.
From your dad's company?
For my dad's company, yeah.
I mean, we've done a lot of props to dad so far, but like, come on, pops.
So the company was going through one of their first biggest downsizing.
Gotcha.
He was going to be he had to let go some people that were 15, 20 years.
Can't keep your son that's a temp.
And yeah, he definitely wasn't going to keep me. He loved me. He didn't love me that much, right? He was like, that's just not what I'm going to do and be known for.
A little bit of an integrity thing there.
A little bit of an integrity thing. So
Sure.
so he cut me loose, which caused a problem for me because now I don't have a job that I'm getting paid.
Also, you got cut loose on a Monday. He couldn't have told you over the weekend?
Yeah.
Like, no heads up from dad, huh?
Well, yeah. Well, so I was under the, the warehouse manager.
Gotcha.
And so,
That's
but so
Dad, we literally had lunch on Sunday.
Yeah.
You could have told me. So
yeah,
so but again, so he says, hey, let's pray about it. You walk in to work, you lose your job. I mean, it's the it's the old saying, right? Of like it's a wicked generation, or it's a wicked generation that looks for miraculous wonders and a foolish one that ignores them.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so it's like tea leaves get pretty easy to read at that point.
Yeah, so I call back Mr. Marks. I'm like, hey, so can I teach more than just one day? Because he was going to be paying me, and so I figured out how to get a couple of my black belts to cover a couple different classes. So I think what I did was, I think I would teach Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Or maybe just Friday and Saturday up in Marietta. And so
Started splitting time, though.
started splitting time, and he let me stay in his guest room. And there may have been a little bit of that time where I didn't have a driver's license. And so his son would come pick me up and bring me up there. And so, yeah, it was still a very difficult time in my life for a little bit.
Gotcha.
And so now I'm about an hour north from all my family, which is further than any of us have moved. I mean, still close enough. Still in California.
When do you move up there? How long do you do the commuting back and forth?
Oh, so really wasn't that long.
Okay.
So, what was interesting is my dojo had always kind of paid its bills. It always kind of been enough that we're just barely in the positive. Like it's just making things meet. And literally when I started going up to Mr. Marx's, it was like in 1 month, like it was like someone, you know how you can like pull a plug and it's like, like all the water gets sucked out. Like that's what happened. And we were like negative $1,000, negative 1,500, like immediate. I mean, and that was a lot. That was a lot to be negative. Like that was, and that's like a dozen students leaving. Okay, that's a lot. That's a lot of people to just be like, all of a sudden it's like, we're like, oh no. And so, we actually ended up, after about a year, it was like, we're just going into debt at this place. We just need to get out of the lease and then just let everybody know, hey, we're going to be merging with Mr. Marx's dojo up north. And so I'm going to be training under him. It's a great opportunity for me. I was actually going to attend Bible college at Calvary Chapel Bible College there.
Nice.
Because I was in Marietta. And so we had some students that followed us, but my dad was able to work out a deal with the landlord and cut him a check, which at the time was, to me, a whole lot of money.
Yeah.
I was like, how do you have that much money? I was like, how do you have that much money, Dad?
You should talk to my kid. He just tells people, he's like, my dad's got millions of dollars. I'm like, we don't. We definitely don't have that.
Yeah, we definitely don't have that.
Yeah, if I had half the money that my kid thought I had, we'd be cool, dude.
You'd be good,
We'd be killing
good.
it. Yeah.
I thought we had like a quarter of the amount of money as what we had.
Yeah.
So
funny, just even like the concept of money. And you're not like a small kid at this point. I mean, you're an adult, but it's just like, it's not like parents ever sit down and they're like, let's go over the financials together, kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't just pop their, the bank accounts open and start running over the ledgers.
Yeah. Yep.
So Dad cuts a check. You are out of the dojo.
Yeah.
You are ATP Ministries up in Marietta.
ATP Ministries up in Marietta. Absolutely.
Okay.
So.
And I know there's a long story of you and Mr. Marx and him inviting you to a lot of sand and all of that part of your life. But you also up here meet eventually your wife.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So, so just kind of timeline, just to give you a little story before too.
Okay.
I'm at a coffee shop doing like morning devotion, whatever stuff. And I hear my high school pastor. He's got a very distinctive voice. And I'm like, Brian's here. I start looking around and I look over and He's right over there. And so this was my high school pastor that I knew. He actually, when we took over the karate studio, when we moved to the new location, he came in and prayed over the entire school. So even after high school, we were still super involved. But then he launched a church up in this unknown place that I had no idea where it was, called Temecula, Murrieta. And by the time I move up there, I forget that they're up there. So I see Brian, and then I go start up a conversation with him. He's like, bro, I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, we've got a church right here. I'm like, awesome. I'm looking for a church. I didn't have a church. I was literally there for less than a week, and I run into Brian. And it's funny. His name's Brian Wilson, like the Beach Boy.
We got Karl Marx, Brian Wilson so far. This is great.
So I start going to the church.
Pretty soon he's got like Tom Cruise is just like running classes as a 3rd degree black belt.
Yeah.
Kurt Russell's gonna come in eventually.
Is your wife's name like Goldie Hawn?
Yeah.
It's good.
So that was really another miraculous thing. Of all the coffee shops that I could have picked to walk into at the time that I picked to walk into it, my high school pastor was there. Like, if that's not a God thing, I don't know.
Oh, 100%.
I don't know what is. So now I've got my church. I'm a weekend. I got my church. And so when I was going to my old church in Vista, we had a 20-something group.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because we weren't college.
Yeah.
But we weren't like 30. So we're in these like 20-something. Like,
yeah, that gray spot the church has always missed.
Always missed. So.
I've ran some 20-somethings ministries before. It's chaotic.
Yeah.
And everyone's life is unsettled.
Yep. So we would actually, about once a month, we would go to a dance night at this country line dancing bar in Temecula, California. So we'd all get a group of us together, and we loved going there because it was country, and so it was still pretty wholesome while it was the country songs, and most people that were there were dressed appropriately until
10 o'clock.
Till about 10 o'clock.
10 o'clock.
About 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden it's like, oh, we're gonna have a 4-song break, and it's all hip hop rap songs.
Yep.
And then it's then it slowly converts to like all hip hop, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was it's so funny. So my wife and I, when we were dating and then early married, we would go to this place called Saddle Up Saloon in I think it was technically Aurora, Illinois.
Yeah.
Basically Naperville, Illinois.
Okay.
Aurora, Illinois. The only reference anyone should ever know is that's where Wayne's World was fictionally set in.
Okay.
Pretty sure all the camera shots is all California somewhere, but they called it Aurora, Illinois.
Funny.
So, but yeah, so we would go and it was like you had line dance instructors on the floor, and then like you could go for a decent dinner and you dance, and that was and then 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
Like they knew the country crowd's going home, and we need to stay open and make money for another 5 hours.
Right.
And it just became a nightclub.
A nightclub. Yep.
And it's like, we're going to head out. I'm not going to lie. There's been plenty of times where we stayed.
Yeah. Well, as the 20-something group and girls and guys that actually wanted to dance, like not just do country line dancing.
Sure.
They had a safe environment.
Yeah.
With all of us.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that I kept going for a while. I actually helped my buddy get married to a girl because she was really good at line dancing. So we strategically had another friend say, hey, Jeff and this guy, Justin, are going to be going, and they need someone to teach them and go with them. And would you go? And I actually taught her brother martial arts, so she knew me.
You had a 3-guy strategically laid out plan on how to help one of the 3 of you court this girl.
So no, the third was a girl.
Oh, okay.
And so she's the one that had the number of the other girl. But yeah, no. So we had this plan to strategically get both of them there, and it worked. They ended up getting married, man.
Hey,
it totally worked.
Look, you can never
Totally worked.
You can't complain when there's results.
So worked. Yep. And so that was funny. But so then I land. Now
Also, that's like the ultimate wingman move for you.
It's ultimate. Yeah.
I hope you got like a T-shirt out of that or something.
Yeah, something. I think I got invited. I was at the wedding.
That's good.
So now I'm next door to that town. So Marietta and Temecula are next door to each other. And so I was like, I know how to line dance. I'm going to go. It's fun. So I'd go down there on my own, without a group, but just meet people and start dancing. And so I knew some of the regulars, and then I was there on December 31st for their New Year's night. And my wife, or my future wife, and her friend come in, and they're early to do the lesson. And a lot of people are there early to do a lesson. And basically they do one line dance, so everybody's dancing the line dance as a lesson. But then they do the couples dance. They do the two-step, and that requires a guy and a gal, right? Yeah. And so, like most places, there's like 20 girls on the floor, and there's like a splattering of like 7 guys. And there's a bunch of guys sitting down. And so the dance instructor, who knows all the regulars, she just starts walking over and starts hand-picking. And so the dance instructor pointed to me and the guy that I was standing next to and said, why don't you two guys go dance with those 2 girls? And I actually danced with Monica, my wife's friend. So I didn't dance with my wife first. So I danced with her. I learned to dance with her friend. And then we did the real dance. And then I did get a chance to ask her to dance. And so, yeah, so we did like what we shared. We had one dance on that night together.
Gotcha.
And then that was it. And then like a few weeks later, maybe a month later, I'm back there again on a Friday or Saturday night. And I see Monica. And she's like across the, it's a big dance floor. I mean, you see, they're big oval. So she's all the way across, and line dancing or two-step is very social. You dance with a lot of people, kind of like in the old days where you put people on your dance card.
Right.
So I went over to where she was and asked if she wanted to dance, picked her up, danced around with her, dropped her back off at her spot. And that was kind of it.
Kind of feels like it's the 50s right now.
Yeah.
So I like this.
Total, like.
You put Monica on your dance card. You picked her up. You delivered her back to her seat.
Put her right back to her spot.
Proper gentleman.
I went back to my spot. And that was like, that was it. And I was at a place in my life where I wasn't looking. And I also thought I was going to meet my wife at Marshall at a tournament, at a karate tournament, or at church. I'm like, those are going to be my 2 best areas for finding a spouse. Like, I didn't think at the country line dancing bar wasn't really, not that they're not good people, but I just wasn't looking that hard. Mm-hmm. And so then we met just like that again, one more time. And on this time, I start going over to go ask her to dance. But she's like leaning towards this tall cowboy guy, and I think they're talking. And I completely abort. Like, I chickened out and was like, whoop, and cut off the dance floor over to the side, and didn't go and ask her to dance. I'm like, oh, I'm not going to go get in the mix of that. And just like a couple minutes later, she's standing next to me, talking with me. So she wasn't with that guy. She wasn't really talking with. Maybe she was talking with him, but she wasn't with him. And she had apparently saw me, and then all of a sudden I'm gone. She's like, "Wait, where did he go? Like, he was over there." And then she spotted me, so she came over and she struck up a conversation with me. And I'm slow, so slow. She's like, "Oh, did you change your hair?" She walks up and asks me, "Did you change it?" She just had some conversation, and I have no idea.
She's making small talk.
She's making small talk, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, well I've got my hat on, and I cut my hair, and I'm like, oh, do you want to dance?" She's like, "Yes, yeah, of course I want to dance." And so take her out dancing, and then when we're done with the dance, because like my position in the room had changed, like I wasn't taking her back to her spot and me back to my spot, like I was taking her back to where we were both talking with each other.
Right.
And so our conversation continued. Like, we kept talking. We went up to the bar, got a drink. There was a pool table over there. She mentioned something about pool, and I was like, "Are you any good?" She was like, "I'm pretty good." And I was like, "I'm pretty good." And we went over and played, and she was pretty good. Let me tell you. She was like, "You didn't miss that shot on purpose." She's like, "'Cause I hate that, and I'm a good pool player." I played APA for a little bit in my American Pool Shooter Association. I was like 21, 22, 23, and I didn't compete in that, but I was on a team that was pretty good. So I'm good at pool, and she was also good. So that was nice.
Did you miss the shot on purpose?
No.
She just beat you.
Maybe one.
Maybe one.
Maybe one. I don't think I'd let her. I don't think I'd let her beat me on any of them.
She's got you.
But it was just good. Yeah. And then we dance another song, and then I dance a line dance, and then a slow song comes on. Cowboys and Angels.
Mm-hmm.
And I take her out to dance.
Classic, by the way.
Yeah. Great.
Solid option to have something come on for you guys to dance.
To dance to. So now it's slow dance, so you're not two-stepping, so you're doing the traditional slow dancing song. And I'll tell you, man, when we started dancing and you know, slow dancing, you're a little bit closer, right? And I knew as soon as I started dancing with her, I was like, oh wow, I could dance with this girl for the rest of my life. And I don't think she reciprocated that feeling at the time. But I mean, she had a great time. She loved it. But I don't think. I mean, I immediately was like, oh, I've got to find out a lot more about this girl because, right? I was like, I need to find out. I was like, well, what did I say? Oh yeah, I said I need to find out if she really likes me. Two, I need to find out if she's a Christian.
Right.
And so I got her number that night, and I call her the next day. I'm like, protocol, whatever. I'm like, 3 day. What's this 3 day stuff? 2 days. I'm like, the next day. I call her up. I'm like, hey. So she doesn't answer. I'm like, hey, Monica, it's Jeff. You know, I was thinking of going on a hike, and somebody told me that this area was pretty cool to go to. You know, do you want to go with me? Give me a call back. We had a conversation about hiking, and she had mentioned that this spot was really nice.
Gotcha.
And so I was like, give me a call back. And it was like an hour later, she calls me back, and she's like, hey, Jeff, sorry, I was at church. I didn't see your call. I'm like, there's one. She's like, I'd love to go hiking with you. I was like, okay. I'm like, I'm in. I got both my questions answered with that one statement. Sorry, I was at church. Love to go hiking with you.
That's awesome.
And so we went at like 1 or 2 o'clock, and then that turned into dinner. You know, took her down to, I think it was like Applebee's. It was just there. But it just turned into an impromptu dinner.
I was really impressed with everything up until you said Applebee's.
Until that point, yeah.
Yeah.
But
it's a step up from Burger King.
That's valid. Yeah. I guess in the like the hierarchy of restaurants so far mentioned.
Yes.
I would say it's on par based on age.
Yeah.
Applebee's is the adult Burger King.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So it's the same price now.
Yeah.
It is the same price now.
It was impromptu, not like it was like, I'm planning to take you out on a date and I'm taking you to Applebee's. I didn't do that.
Right.
It was, you know, it was like, gosh, we're still talking. It's 5 o'clock. Like we're starving.
Hey, it's important to be eating good in the neighborhood.
Eating good in the neighborhood. Yeah. And so we basically start hanging out and talking every day moving forward. Like a day doesn't go by that we're not connecting. And she actually tries to shake me at one point where she's like, "Oh man, this guy's he's really serious." Like, and she wasn't quite sure if she was in the moment of, am I going to be serious in this moment? And she kind of tried to take a step back, which lasted for like 4 or 5 days. and then we were back in it.
Gotcha.
And we ended up getting engaged 2 months after our first date.
That's very quick.
It's very quick.
Actually, Gavin, the rest of this story will prove he's the only person I've ever met on a tighter timeline than you were with your wife.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I think we made it to 10 weeks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. 10. All right. So 2 months in, I propose on my birthday because she was taking me to my favorite restaurant, which was Anthony's a very nice Italian restaurant. So
There you
here's a very
go.
legitimate
Nice.
restaurant. All
Right?
right.
It's your birthday. It's
my
proposal
birthday.
day. We have legitimized the restaurants in your life.
Yes, and it's like this is the only place that I could get her and have us be dressed appropriately
Yeah.
for a proposal. Any other place that we would go, we're kind of like normal dress
Yeah,
or
it's
like
casual clothes.
casual stuff. We're not.
When you got to get dressed up for the proposal.
Well, yeah, and so it would have been the cat would have been out of the bag completely. It's
Yeah.
like, hey, can we go to this fancy restaurant and be all dressed up? And she'd be like, why? It's just a Thursday. So I'm like, I'm gonna propose on my birthday, and so I do the proposal and get married. Then 2 months later, to the day, so I got married. I got engaged on May 7th.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got married on July 7th. We almost missed July 7th by literally 1 second. So we got married July 7th at 11:59 p.m. And
How'd that go?
yeah, how'd that go? So why would someone get married at 11:59 p.m.?
Why were you married so late, Jeff?
Yeah. So we were obviously talking about marriage,
Mhm.
and my mentor, Mr. Marx, he's an ordained minister, so he can we were gonna have him marry us, right? And he was like, Jeff, if you want me to take care of the legalities of things and make you guys legitimate, he's like, just let me know, right? And he's like, just give me a call. We'll
To protect the sanctity of marriage
we'll
by
do the deal. Yeah. And so that time comes. That time comes, and he's off gallivanting in Hawaii.
very selfish. Of
I know,
Mr.
so
Marx.
selfish. So he's supposed to be on a vacation. His 10-day long vacation turns into 10 days of work,
Hmm.
which is not uncommon. All right. But then someone on the island was like, hey, you just worked for 10 days. That wasn't a vacation. We've got a property on an excluded part. Why don't you go stay there for 2 weeks? So then he extends his 10-day trip to adding 2 more weeks. And my wife is like, so we just need to fly to Hawaii and have him marry us. I was like, I love that idea, but it's a lot easier for us to just drive to Las Vegas 4.5 hours away and get married. And she's like, really? You do that? And I grabbed I think I had a little iPad at the time. It was 5 p.m.
What year is this? It's the year you got married.
Yeah, the year we got married, 2012.
Okay.
2012.
Gotcha.
I grab and I start map questing. Like, can we get there in time? Is it still open? And so we literally hopped in the car, drove there, got to the clerk's or the county clerk's office where you've got to get your marriage certificate. We got that at by 11:45. And of course, right next door to the clerk's office are a bunch of little chapels. And so we find this one. It is a drive-through chapel. Right? So we drive up to it. The officiant lady comes out and is by the side of the door, like she's taking our order. And she's like, she started talking to us, and then she stops and goes, do you guys want to be married on the 7th or the 8th? 7th or the 8th? And I go, the 7th. And she goes, I now pronounce you husband and wife. And then she starts going, so tell me about your dog. And we're like, what just happened? She's like, it was 11:59. She's like, it was about to be the 8th. And she's like, okay, we can go through all the normal stuff. So she does the whole normal thing, but she just quickly was like, oh, I got to marry you right this second or it's not going to count.
That's hysterical.
So
You started with cake, and then you went to the dinner.
yes,
Yeah. And I'll pronounce you husband and wife.
boom.
And then, do you take this person?
Yeah, did you take this person? Yeah. And so then she's like done, and then we literally drive up to a drive-up window, pay for the being married,
Right.
and then drive back home the 4.5 hours because her son was going to be getting dropped back off in the morning from the friends that he was staying the night at.
So you get married. You've known her 7 months at this point.
No. Oh, I mean, I'd seen her
Yeah.
for 7. Yeah,
Right.
I mean,
Known of her existence.
known of her existence.
Right.
Yes.
For 7 months. You
Right.
are now married with a stepson.
Married with a stepson, a dog, and some furniture. Yeah.
In a fully stocked living room.
And a stock living room. Yeah. So like instant family, pre-teenager. And man, we were so nervous. And so she made the decision, like she was like, hey, you're not going to meet my son until like we're engaged.
Mm-hmm.
So she made that decision early on, which was only 2 months. So I mean, it wasn't like it was a long time. And so I'm like, yeah, that's totally fine. So she calls me up frantic. She's like, oh my gosh, she was helping at church. The church was doing the Passion of Christ production. So my assistant instructor, Jason, his sisters were in the Passion of Christ, so he's there. And Jason's just a super friendly guy, and so he knows. Jason knows I'm dating Monica.
Right.
Okay. So Jason's talking with Monica. Well, Camden, her son, is there. And then they're talking, and Jason's talking to him about the karate studio and invites Camden to come to the karate studio, which I'm going to be at. And so Monica's like, oh my gosh, Jason just invited Camden to come to the karate studio. Are you okay with that? And I was like, and I thought about it for a second, and I was like, actually, yeah. Like, he'll be able to see me like king of the castle, like chief of the ship, like running my stuff. Like, and he'll just see me as like, that's the karate master black belt dude that's like doing stuff. And so I got to meet him in that capacity.
That's really cool.
Before. And yeah, man, because I was praying. I was like, Lord, I've had so many young children look up to me. Let this young man not be the one to not look up to me. Like, don't let this be the one that doesn't like, oh, you're dating my mom. And so we do the whole thing where I get to meet him. And it was funny afterwards. He told his mom, he was like, oh, you should have just told me you were dating the karate guy. Like, so I was like, okay, we're good there. Like, we're in. But yeah, so that was just a process. We took our time and kind of got into that. But yeah, so 11-year-old. Yeah,
Right.
skipped all the diapers. I'm kind of okay with that.
Yeah, it's not. I'm not going to say I don't love the young years with my kids, but had they been born potty trained, that would have been so cool.
Would have been nice.
Yeah. What? All right. So I mean, it's an awesome story about your wife, dude. How you guys just met and how that worked, and then the drive-through chapel is fantastic.
Yeah.
So
And we did the real wedding like 3 months later.
okay.
So
And did Victor Marx, did he officiate that one then?
he officiated that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So but we did a nice
So
little.
your parents got to go to a wedding and
Yes. Oh yeah.
Right.
My mom would have killed me. She would have she would have killed me if I didn't. I'm the only son, so
Gotcha.
she didn't get to see her son get married and have the mother son dance.
right.
So we got to dance there. So that was a great ceremony. We had 50 to 75 people in my parents' backyard with a couple pop up easy ups and catered a little bit of food, and yeah, and that was a really good time.
Nice.
So
I want to get into kind of that next phase, right? Where you know, Mr. Marx moves again, right? If I'm not mistaken, right? And you kind of
Yep.
get called. But before we jump into his next invitation for you to go,
yeah,
we'll take a break. Right, so we were at, right, like you're married, family set.
yeah,
And there is, I'd kind of preface this before the break that we would kind of get into this next call from Mr. Marx, but also there's this God call that happens on you as well, right? So it's like
yes,
you hit, and I guess you can explain the timeline on it, but you kind of get 2 calls on your life, one directly from God,
yeah,
and then one from God, but conduit through Mr. Marx, and that kind of compels that next part, but. Yeah, so dig into that.
yeah. So this we just have to go back a couple years before I was married. So I was about 20. I was 28 and 29, and so when I had ran, from when I had my kind of away time, I wasn't. I was training and whatnot, but I wasn't having massive success. I was winning I don't know. I say that, but it's like I was winning world championships. I wasn't winning grand championships. So like national grand championships, world grand championships. I was earning a place at the table by winning first in one division, but then never being the winner of the winners.
Because then those first places of each division then kind of they go into a bracket together, so to speak.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's the best of the best, and there I do.
So you're getting to the table. You're just not winning there.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. And excuse me. So I really had this moment.
That Coca-Cola, man.
It's that Coca-Cola.
Be careful.
Yeah.
So.
No, for sure. But I really had this moment where my faith was starting to get really strong, right? I'm involved in church, living for the Lord. And I have this moment where I feel like the Lord asked me a question. And I felt like he said, Jeff, why haven't you won the World Kata Grand Championships? So very specific. And it was a very interesting question because I thought about it and not in a prideful way or anything, but my honest answer was I really haven't tried. And by try, I don't mean was I at the World Championships and not trying to win? No, absolutely. I was doing my best while I was there, but the months leading up to the World Championships, I wasn't doing what I needed to do to try to win one of those.
So you're saying it's not like a prideful thing that was your response. Is that more of like almost like a self-realization, humbling moment of going like, I really haven't actually committed to this? Or have you kind of known all along and just almost been okay with it? How does that, what's going on internally as you're trying to answer this question from God?
Yeah, I think the self-value, one of the things, my self-value in myself just didn't have me in a place where I wanted to go out and win a big grand championships, or maybe I didn't have the belief that I could. And really kind of getting right with God gave me a better, self-awareness, self-value or whatnot of going, well, also too, it's like, I don't care how many, I never cared about trophies. Like to give you an example, you remember when I said I won that Triple Crown when I was 21? So I competed in 26 tournaments in 11 months. And I did the numbers. I competed in 3 divisions. And then there was the Kata Grand Championship and the Sparring Grand Championship. I competed in 3 divisions. Out of all 26 of those tournaments, I averaged 4 trophies a tournament. You're like, how do you average 4 trophies, Jeff? There's only 3 divisions. Well, you get a trophy for grand champion. I was averaging 1 grand championship. So that means I'm walking home on a lot of cases with 5 trophies. So 4 times 26.
Right.
That's how many trophies I had in 1 year. That's just a stupid amount.
104 trophies.
It's 104 trophies. I'm like, the trophies.
You said that Dad's still in the house that you grew up in, right?
Yeah, no, Dad. Yeah, my dad is still.
Your dad.
Yeah, my dad's
Dennis.
Still, yeah, Dennis is
still in the house.
Yes.
Is there a weird shrine in the house with all your trophies and medals and everything?
No, it was in the dojo.
Oh, okay.
So actually,
you had the wall in the dojo.
We had 1, 2, 3. We had a whole 20 foot long 3 rows filled.
That's awesome.
With trophies. So we always joked, yeah, my parents, I was winning so many trophies that my parents had to buy a karate studio to fit them all.
That's funny.
So I'd never really been like, I'm going to go win a World Grand Championships. I'd never just really.
You ran in
didn't have
World Championships, National Championships, national grand championships, but no world grand championships.
Yeah, and I'd only won one national grand.
Okay.
When I was 21, I won the fighting one.
That's right.
So I make a decision. I'm going to win the world grand championships this year. And I set forth from that day acting as if I'm winning.
Mm-hmm.
And so I start doing all the things that I need to be doing. And the world specifically is the hardest one to win this one at. It's unlike the national championships or any grand championship because they have a extra round of elimination and then they throw a curveball in there at you at the end. So you've got all the divisions, so you have to win first to go to that bracket where all the winners are.
Okay.
Normally, a grand championships is just the person who did the best out of those winners, and that's the grand champion.
Right.
So at the Worlds, they do that division, but then they elevate two guys, and they're going to go to finals, and they're going to compete against each other in forms, right, when you're out there doing the stuff on your own.
Right.
But when you go and you're one of those two people, you actually have to go enlist and recruit black belts or someone to come attack you so that you can show the application of your kata in speed, like full speed for that. And so you're recruiting 4 to 5 guys that are going to sacrifice their time. And it's Saturday night at 10 p.m.
Sure.
And you find out that you now need a team for Sunday at 6 p.m. And so then you have to put the team together. And man, the guys that I had on my team were amazing.
And they got to learn essentially your kata so that they can understand how to attack that kata for the kata to be on display.
Yes.
Applicable.
Yes. So in my kata, I had 16 attack sequences. And so I had 4 people. And so what was it like? Everybody does.
Yeah, everybody does 4 attacks.
Everybody does like 4 attacks, basically.
Yeah, you do the martial arts. I'll do the math.
Thank you.
Fine.
Yeah,
That's fine.
appreciate it.
I can do 16 divided by 4.
Okay, my shoes aren't on. My shoes are on. Like you're
doing great.
I need help.
Yeah, no, you're doing
for the
great.
math stuff.
So you're doing awesome.
So we had those 16 sequences. Yeah, and they got to learn all those because man, if they mess it up, like it's a done deal. Like one mess up from one of those guys will means that you're not winning. Like that's the level that we're doing this at. So they sacrifice, we train for about maybe 3 hours. We do an hour that night. We do an hour in the morning. We do an hour before finals. So 3 hours, these guys put this thing together and they're incredible. Now I had the benefit. I had diagrams already. I mean, I drew it out for them. I'm like, I know what I'm doing here. I'm like, you guys, all right, here's the first 4 sequences. Now, you guys need to be here, here, and here. And here's the second set of 4. You're going to be here, 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 and here. And so I did my best to help them out, and they just crushed it. And I won that year. And so got an 8-foot tall. It was like an 7 or 8 foot tall trophy. I mean, I think it's 7, maybe 8.
It's taller than you.
It's taller than me. It's super big. Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's like 7 feet. Super cool because you're on stage, and so you have to go out and you perform your kata with nobody. So you have to run your kata and your form one time on your own, and then immediately after you do that routine, they all come up, and you got to do it again with them attacking you. Mm-hmm. So you're up there for like 6-7 minutes total, and it's amazing. So I won it that year, and I figured I might as well try to win it a couple more times. Mm-hmm. And so I won it consecutively 3 times in a row.
Wow.
Over the next 3 years. And tied the record for the organization. Only one guy from Indiana, an Indiana guy, Phil Morgan, had won it in 89, 90, and 91. I mean, there's only a handful of guys that have won it consecutively twice. Mm-hmm. And then there's only one other guy who's won it consecutively 3 times. And, so that was a cool accomplishment.
That's awesome.
And I went for the 4th time, and and I didn't get it. I did. I mean, did all my preparation. It just wasn't in there. So I think I took in the last final where I got eliminated. I was 2/100ths of a point away from getting into my spot. And but yeah, I mean, I performed the best kata of my life that day. So it was an accumulation of 4 years of lots and lots of practice. Like, holy cow, lots and lots of practice. And it was amazing. And yeah, it kind of put my stamp on the record books. And and kind of was able to, do it for God.
Right.
Because, like, he was the one that wanted me to do it. I was like, this wasn't my idea.
Did that kind of give you peace to be able to go like, okay, hey, it's the culmination of my career, or is there, or maybe just like there's nothing left on the table, right? Like you feel like you finally did it all, or?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because, I mean, you don't leave martial arts after that, right? But
no. Yeah, no, I don't leave. I just pull back the throttle on super hardcore competition and basically kind of was like, if I was at a tournament and I wanted to have fun and I thought it would be fun, I would go compete. And if I didn't think it was be fun or I wasn't feeling it, I just wouldn't compete. I'd be there running rings, I'm a Hall of Fame member for that organization, and so they have a whole Hall of Fame thing. So they'll put me in charge of a ring, and they'll just put divisions in front of me, and I'm, judging and scoring those divisions. So I'm active out there, having a blast still, like helping the tournament succeed, and then coaching my students and having them win championships themselves is always good to see.
That's awesome. What's the best?
Yeah.
What's the highest accomplishment you've had a student win?
National Youth Grand Championship. So I had one of my students, Seth Sinclair, as a orange belt. He was like 8. He won the junior grand championships, which goes up to like, they used to do it. It was from 17 down. I can't remember. I think they did a beginning version though. But it was from age 17 down below.
As an orange belt at 8 years old.
At an orange belt at 8 years old. He goes and he won it. Yeah.
That's awesome.
He was the only student that I ever taught that could mirror me. Like, mirror me.
Just how his brain worked. He could watch it and replicate it.
So much so. So much so. I remember I'm teaching him a private lesson, and he's doing something in his kata, and I'm like, that's weird. What are you doing? Like, he's doing this little flare. And I'm like, what? I'm like, what? Why are you doing that? And I get next to him, and I start that kata, and guess who does that flare?
You do.
I do that flare. I don't even know that I'm doing the flare, right? I don't teach people to do the flare, but I do the flare, and I'm like, holy cow! Like, you're doing it exactly as you see me doing it, not just like, oh yeah, just go to here. No, it's like doing it with the little flair. Yeah, it's incredible student. Yeah.
That's really cool. That's really cool. All right, so God prompts you.
Yep.
Right. He doesn't tell you what to do, but he prompts you with a question.
Mm-hmm.
You respond. Right. And this overlaps with all these 4 years are all prior to meeting your wife. This overlaps meeting your wife.
It overlaps it in the last year.
Gotcha. In the end of it.
Yeah.
And then so you guys are so you're married. Insta family.
Yep.
Full living room of furniture.
Full living room of furniture.
Huge win. And shortly after that, Victor Marx calls again.
So, well, yes and no.
Okay.
So let's back up.
Okay.
So we don't have to back up. We'll start from right there. So he's still here in Marietta.
Gotcha.
All right. And then there's a couple death threats from like extremist groups that kind of prompt him to move.
And not to go into his story well told, but 30-second flyby summary of why he's getting death threats.
So because of the work that he was doing in the Muslim world and with Iraq, actively speaking out against ISIS at the time.
Okay.
And then because he was actually, so he got a death threat from both the extremist Islamic side, and he also got a death threat from the Christian extremist side, or someone in some type of
Sure.
very, very
Some far right Christian extremist group.
Yep. Yeah.
So,
And that kind of,
and roughly what year is this?
I mean, this must
Ballpark.
Yeah. I mean,
If anybody wants to go checking timestamps on dates.
yeah.
Whatever.
I mean, 2014.
Okay.
Yeah, 2014.
Right.
Maybe at the beginning of 2015.
I mean, extremist groups
Yeah.
are, culturally, they're super relevant at this point. It's not like anybody at that point hadn't heard of ISIS.
Right.
You know what I mean? So,
And I don't know if it was ISIS or who it was.
Sure.
It was Al Qaeda, but it
some
was somebody.
Muslim extremist
Yep.
group is, because of the work he's doing, he's on the list of he's a problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So he moved. So I'm still running it. He actually just hands it over to me. The office is still in Murrieta, so it's still functioning like it's in Southern California.
Okay.
And he's just the president living in Colorado, which nobody basically knows. And yeah,
At the time.
At the time, yes. And so my wife and I, get into our first house, which is a fun story. I don't know. You might enjoy this story. Being a mortgage guy.
Tell us about your rates.
Yeah.
No. Please do not.
Let me tell you about my rates. So, we get approved for our loan to go get this house, and my dad and my mom. So my dad and my mom came to us and said, "Hey, this year we want to help all the kids get into a home, and we're going to give you a down payment for that home."
Wow.
So they were giving us about, I think, $40,000, and I was like, "You're gonna do what?" I was like, "That's a whole lot. You have that much money?"
Remember when you thought it was a lot of money for the check you wrote on
yeah.
the deal?
Yeah. I was like, "What?" And then it just we got approved, and then it just took a long while. And so, of course, like 45 days had passed, and we had to do another credit check.
Mm-hmm.
And something from my wife's ex-husband, a 90-day and a 45-day truancy pops on my wife's record because of the house that she was associated with her ex-husband. And all of a sudden, he was like, "I've never seen this happen in 25 years of doing mortgage." He was like, "You guys were good 45 days ago.
Right.
Why did it pop up now?" And so we can't use her income.
Because can't use her credit.
Can't use her credit, and we can't get the house on. I can't do it. And so I call my dad up, and I'm just telling him, like, "Hey, we're not going to be able to get in a house, and so we're not going to need your down payment, and thank you so much." And he's like, "Well, Jeff, how much is the house?" It was $235,000. He's like, "Well, what if you get the loan from somewhere else?" I'm like, "Well, what do you mean?" He was like, "Well, what if I do the loan?" I was like,
"What if you get the mortgage from the Bank of Dennis?"
Yeah, I was like, I mean, well, if you're our lender, that means you would have to buy it for cash so that you own it and then are loaning it to us. And he was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Huh?" He's like, "Yeah, I can buy it."
45 days ago, you were like, "You have 40 grand?"
Yeah, and I'm like, "Wait, you have $235,000 that you can just move around and buy stuff with?" He was like, "Yeah." And that's what he.
Remember those displays you were building and those things?
Yeah. And that's what he did. He bought the house. We did the mortgage with him. It was like
now I do want to know the rate.
Yeah.
Now I do want to know the interest rate that your dad charged you.
Oh, he didn't charge us any. It was whatever it was. Yeah, he didn't do anything like that. But we actually were able to we refied like a little while.
Sure. Once her credit was cleared up, did a refi to pay off the bank dad.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, I've had plenty of clients do that, but shout out to your dad
So-
for being able to
Yeah.
and having the heart to do it.
Yeah, and so that was really cool. So then I get a call from Mr. Marx, and he's like, "Hey, I need someone to travel. I'm looking for someone to travel with me, and I'd really like you to come out." And I was like, "Oh,
And you know the work he's doing, obviously. You're fully aware. Do you and your wife understand what that means to travel with Mr. Marx?
to an extent, yeah. I mean, we knew he was doing some stuff overseas, and I didn't know how much we would be traveling or whatnot. So there was an understanding of what it could entail to a certain level. Yeah. And
how did Monica respond to that? Like, I'm just curious, what's the process of the wife going, my husband's going to start traveling with a guy who, extremist groups from various parts of the world he's on their list.
yeah, so my wife, I mean, she composed and held it together really good, because we never had any super major breakdowns or anything, but she knows my relationship with Mr. Marx. She loves the Lord herself.
Right.
And she's like, you guys are doing ministry work. All right. And then her ex-husband was a Marine.
Gotcha.
And so she's been a military spouse.
Yeah.
With husband leaving and going overseas. So she wasn't, she was accustomed to, oh, you're going to go overseas. I've done that before. Like she's been in that situation before.
Mhm.
So the combination of kind of those three things, it wasn't like, oh my God, I've never had a loved one go out of the country for anything. Like, so that's not like super new.
But you and her are seeing this as like, hey, I'm gonna go and invest in doing some kingdom work.
Yeah, for sure. And so we were kind of in a weird spot though too, because one, I didn't have anybody to pass the dojo off to. There was only 2 guys that I could pass it off to. So our system was very small. So it's not like I could put out an ad and get a bunch of black belts to answer it. Like, no, you have to be a black belt in our system to take over this dojo. Like, it
Gotcha.
wouldn't work. There was only 2 guys, and they both said no.
Yeah.
It wasn't a good fit.
Okay.
And so we're continuing life. I'm running a small group at church. I'm teaching in the youth. And I spend a year on the elder board at that church. They're both my old pastors. And actually the church is going to launch another church. And they're going to launch Pastor Brian, my high school pastor, out as the lead pastor to go and do that. And we go with them. And so we're doing the church launch in town. And I'm pretty much going to be his junior high guy at the church with intermittent speaking spots for the main congregation up there. So like kind of like
You're going to be the youth pastor that preaches
associate pastor. Like we're getting into like an associate pastor position. And so then like this was probably at like the 6 months after Mr. Marx thing. Well, like 2 months after that, like we're launched. We're just barely starting to get things going at the new church. Haven't really concreted anything yet. One of the guys comes back and says, hey, I'd be interested in taking over the dojo and having you, and taking it over. So now I'm faced with this dilemma of going, oh, wait, I'm doing some stuff with my high school pastor. Like I'm part of a church plant, and he's angling to have me be his junior high guy. And so I sit down with Brian and have a real heart-to-heart, right? Like, hey, I've got this option with Victor Marx of doing this. And Brian's so awesome. He sat down and he said, Jeff, the short conversation is, Jeff, how many guys do you think I could find in Murrieta to be a junior high guy? And I was like, probably a lot. Mm-hmm. He was like, yeah, I can find a bunch of guys. And he was like, how many guys that can step into the position that you're going to be doing for Mr. Marx and do it like you're going to do it? And I was like, not that many. A very, very, very small amount of people. And basically, I mean, not very many people. I mean, less than a few that could do it with the trust level that I have bringing to the table. And he's like, you should probably go with that one. And so,
he lets you off the hook, kind of sets you free of that.
Yep.
That's very cool.
And yeah, and so that's what we do. I jump out there, and within a year, this was one of the moments when I'm like, where people were like, well, were you ever scared that, you did the wrong move or blah, 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 blah. And man, it wasn't like 6 or 7 months after getting there. And if you know Mr. Marx's story at any level, you will know how significant this is. He calls me up at like 6:30 p.m. one night. I'm like, yes, sir. And he's like, Jeff, he's like, everything's okay, but I'm at the ER. I need to get some things checked on. He's like, my daughter, my 14-year-old daughter is at ballet. And I need you to go pick her up and take her home. And I was like, yes, sir. And it was in that moment, knowing his background, like there's literally 1 to 2 men in the world that he would send and trust enough to go pick his daughter up. Pick up his teenage daughter. And I had the pleasure of answering that call. And I was like, yeah, I'm in the right place. I made the right decision, right? It's exactly. And so I got to do things like that for him. Just incredible, just do life with him while I was there. And started off with a bang too. So yeah. So
where are we going?
Yeah, where are we going? So it was actually, I actually did a trip with him before coming on as staff.
Oh.
All right. So it was during the time, it was in a transition. We had about a 3-month transition of the one guy taking over the dojo and me phasing out. But during that time, we did this trip. I think it was 2015. We went to Amman, Jordan, and then over to Kurdistan, which is northern Iraq. Mm-hmm. And so I'm driving. We're doing this church event thing in California, and Mr. Marx and this guy Chaz, who was Mr. Marx's other kind of go-to admin guy. Chaz looks like he should be security because he's Samoan, but he's a small Samoan, but he's Samoan, so he still looks like he could do the deal.
Right.
But all of a sudden they're talking about this trip to Iraq in like 2 weeks and how they're going to be going. And I can't remember which one of them said it, but they were like, well, shouldn't Jeff go? And I'm sitting in the back seat going, what are you guys talking about? And they're like, hey, Jeff, you want to go do a quick trip to Iraq with us? And I'm like, maybe. Let me call Monica. Like, let's go figure this out. And I didn't even have a passport. I had to go and do the expedited. I had to go get a passport professional person to expedite my passport, for like $500, however much it costs to get the things like exported, expedited. And so us three headed out to Amman, Jordan. So just to give you perspective, this is my first missions trip ever. So I didn't do the whole, go down to Tijuana, build some homes, or like go do this or that like most people do.
Right.
I was always teaching martial arts and doing stuff, so I never like freed myself up to go and do that. And so literally my first missions trip is me going overseas. To very dangerous areas. And but the first place we go to is Amman, Jordan, which is beautiful. Very safe area. It's a very neutral ground. But there was a senior Islamic leader who wanted to talk with us and have a conversation about some of the things that we were doing. And to give you perspective, he was the head guy. He was over the Levant, which is the money of churches. So he had about 150 million Muslims under him. It's like that was his reach. So very, very high-ranking, well-off to-do guy. And so we have that meeting lined up. We have some other people that we're meeting. We actually got to meet another senior Islamic leader on the academic side. So we call him the professor. And so this is the guy that when you go through your PhDs on the Islamic side, he's the guy that signs your PhD. All right.
Okay.
So he's the guy that signed al-Baghdadi's PhD. Like any of the ISIS members, he signed their PhD. Now I've heard him say he believes that they got completely twisted and sideways and aren't following the faith. Right. And so, which was pretty cool to hear from an Islamic leader. So yeah, we go and we actually get a little day. We can go tour around. So we got to go to the Dead Sea. Got to go to the Jordan River. I've actually got a picture of Mr. Marx scooping up a little water from the Jordan and doing a little baptism on me.
That's cool.
Yeah. And so that was cool. Then we got to go do the meeting with that guy. And we filmed it. Like we have a film, we filmed it all. And so that was cool. And then we flew to Iraq and went to northern Iraq. And we had some guys, Dave Eubank of the Free Burma Rangers, another great person you should look up, Free Burma Rangers. And obviously they weren't in Burma at the time, but that's where they did a lot of stuff. And so Dave was holding a line with the Peshmerga, the Kurdistan army, basically, Peshmerga. And so we told Dave we'd come meet him. He had one of our vehicles. And so we show up, and it's just kind of this nondescript place about, 5 miles from Mosul, which was the stronghold which ISIS had taken over. So ISIS had control of Mosul. And, right, and, all the U.S. and all the people are, they're all fighting, and so this is on another side, and so they're holding, again, they had just been attacked the day before, and so they were doing, like, medical care, trauma, and so we're connecting with Dave, just talking with him. We only have a couple days there, and we have certain things we're supposed to do, and so a couple things that I like to tell people. One, there were boxes of rations from Samaritan's Purse that were there. So people were getting supplies. The World Food Health Organization, something like that, they had a truck there with supplies that was supposed to be going into Mosul to bring supplies to the civilians there. And basically it got there, and they kind of went, we're going to turn around. This is as far as we're not actually going to be able to get into where we're supposed to go. It's too dangerous. So Mr. Marx and Dave were like, hey, we'll put one of our drivers in the vehicle and we'll drive that truck in, which was not on our agenda at all. And it wasn't a small job. Right. And so we actually planned it out, come back the next day to go and do that. And so we have to go in on the Iraqi side. And so we had papers to be on the Kurdistan side from the Kurdistan regional government. We didn't have any papers on the Iraqi side. So we weren't really sure how this was going to go because we didn't have authorization to be crossing certain checkpoints on the Iraqi side. So we've got our Iraqi contact there, and and we've got a big truck with supplies. So we're going to be like, let's see how this goes. We're trying to take it to General Mustafa, who had a tank division that was on the forefront. He was receiving civilians that were fleeing ISIS. Okay? So that's where we're supposed to be going. And it's funny. So we get up there, and like they lock down the checkpoint. Checkpoint's closed. Something weird's happening. And so like we get out, and there's lines of cars, and all of a sudden Mr. Marx is like, I'm with him, but all of a sudden they're like, oh, I think that's Oliver North. standing at the gates. I don't know if you know that name at all. You know that name?
Yeah.
Sure enough, Oliver North is hanging out. So he's doing one of his war stories.
Right.
So we go meet up with him. So we're in Iraq, like at this random checkpoint, trying to get in, and he's there. And had this whole funny, we just, I mean, they each knew of each other. I think they may have met once or something before, but we had this whole conversation, and then it became a game of which one of them had the contacts to be able to get us through the gate the quickest. And so Oliver North had a direct comms with the special operations base for the soft community that were there.
Right.
He's like, I've got direct comms with them. I'm trying to actually go to them. And they send 2 AMRAPs. I don't know if you know what AMRAPs are, but they look like really, really dangerous, big armored, like picture an armored bank vehicle, but outfitted with a lot of armament and stuff. That's what they look like. So we finally get authorization to go with them and go in. And so we're cool. We've got this little caravan. We're following these 2 big things. All of a sudden they stop. We're like, okay, we're stopping. All of a sudden they're getting out. We're like, what's going on? They come back. They're like, hey, our comms are down. We have to go back. And we're like, oh, okay. And Oliver North was like, hey guys, why don't you go forward to the base? All right. And, you can go meet those guys and then you can guys do what you want. We're like, okay. He's like, so you're going to go about 2 clicks down and then you're going to see it on your right. You can't miss it. Okay. We're like, awesome. We start driving 2, 3, 4 clicks, miles in.
Yep.
And we're like, this doesn't look like anything. It's like there's no one. There is no one out here. There's burned and blown up cars, and like all of us are starting to get the EBGBs. And Mr. Marx is like, oh, we just see somebody. Maybe we should stop. We saw somebody, and we actually saw a couple guys dragging another guy into like a shed. And we're like, okay. So we stumbled upon the Iraqi counter-terrorist unit. And they were really not happy to see us. And they were really not happy with the fact that I was standing outside my vehicle taking pictures. Okay? For a couple reasons. Because the day before, or like 2 days before that, a news reporter had done something like that and then posted a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
And so this was one of the biggest pucker moments that I had on this trip, because they come over not happy. I leave my phone in the car and come out to meet them, and they're like, "Where's your phone?" Like, go get your phone. Like, erase everything. And like they are not happy. We're trying to explain. They're like, "Who are you guys?" They didn't believe we were who we were. And Mr. Marx actually had his book with him. Of course, he has his book, which has a bunch of pictures.
Right.
Okay, and so he's like, "Oh no, like this is me. This is me with a bunch of famous people." And they're like, "Oh, this is you." And he's like, "Yeah." They're like, "Oh, okay. Can we take a selfie?" And and it's like, let's take a selfie with the famous American. And they were like, "Where are you guys trying to go?" So they finally kind of, hands are coming off their weapons and they're chilling out. And they're like, "Where are you guys trying to go?" And they're like, "We're trying to go to this forward operating base." They're like, "Okay, let me get them on the line." Mr. Marx gets on the line with this guy and he's like, Who are you? Like, what are you guys doing? And he's like, "Well, where are you?" And then the other guy told him where he is. And the guy said, "Sir, you are currently further than any special operations forces have been. You need to turn around and come back immediately." And we're like, "We will do that." And he's like, "This is how you get to where we are." And so we get back in our vehicle and make a quick turnaround and find the special operations base, which was like like 2 turns in.
Bad directions for Oliver Stone.
Bad directions, yeah. And so all of a sudden we're driving, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, that kind of looks a little weird. It's all this camo stuff, and then I see this massive long barrel peeking out from it. It's a guy up on top, of the building in a gunner spot. I'm like, I think we found it, and so we got to go in and see those guys, and they thought we were crazy. They're like, "What are you guys doing here?" And just had a quick
here to deliver supplies.
Yeah, we're just here to deliver some supplies. And so anyway, so we get the supplies. So we're not actually trying to go there. We're trying to get to the spot where General Mustafa is. And so we get to where General Mustafa is. We kind of go through this alleyway, and I swear I saw like a little dust demon. Like those little things that I'm like, oh, look, there's a dust demon. And someone was like, Jeff, that was a mortar. And I was like, that was a what? And he was like, it was a mortar. And I'm like, oh, okay. And so they were firing mortars over at the area. Now ISIS is terrible at working equipment that's not theirs or even their equipment. So they weren't super great, but kind of drive through that, get to the base that they're at. So we get to meet General Mustafa, super awesome guy. His team is incredible. They served us a lunch, kind of out there at this little spot, and we had some pretty consistent mortar fire coming in at locations, but their job was to help bring civilians in, check them, make sure they're not pretending to be ISIS and whatnot, and bring them in, and then they were getting supplies, and so we brought the supplies into him. I mean, he's got no government support, so he's got no supplies for civilians. Like they're on their own. Like he can't help them. So he was really grateful that we brought that stuff in. So we kind of created a relationship there, which we ended up doing a lot with him moving forward from there. And so he became a real critical piece. Like he called us up on multiple things to come rescue different kids or things like that. And it was just kind of like going, I look back and I go, if we had just said, we don't have enough time to spend a whole day driving these supplies in. If we'd just said we don't have time, we never would have gotten in there, met General Mustafa, who was very critical in a lot of things that we did. And when I look back on that, I'm like, that is crazy. Like the impact, like how God set that up to put us there at that right moment. I mean, because we could have been... That guy could have come like an hour before we got there or an hour later after we left, and we never would have known that there was a truck that needed to be moved around or something like that. It was I just totally saw God's hand in that for that moment. So that was my part of my first trip in, like going to Iraq, kind of first missions trip, and being there. We never really stayed in a place more than like 2 days while we were there. We just had a lot of other things to do, but it was pretty interesting.
Yeah, that's unlike most people's mission trips. Like, it's I can tell you that we've done supplies. We've done it in various countries. None of that entailed ISIS, Iraq, General Mustafa, or bad directions.
Or bad directions, yeah.
I think I've had bad directions on a mission trip before.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
I think we did Feed My Starving Children in, like, South Carolina, so it's the same thing.
Yeah.
That's so similar.
Yeah.
Bad directions are bad directions, right? I mean...
Yeah, except your bad directions didn't come from Peter Stone while mortars are flying.
I do enjoy that you changed the name.
Oh, did I call
time?
Oliver North?
You started with Oliver North, then it became Oliver Stone.
Did
and
I?
Now you just
did I call him Oliver Stone?
You just called him Peter Stone.
Peter Stone?
Yeah.
Who's Oliver Stone?
I'm just excited what the next one is.
Who's Peter Stone?
I don't know.
I could see Oliver North's face.
Yeah.
Why did he become Peter?
No,
Peter Stone.
Yeah.
Sword in the Stone? It's fine. We'll get there. That just tells you how my brain works. I'm stuck on the, oh, look, there's a funny little dust thing. Look,
So
It's a mortar.
It's a yeah.
Shout out to ISIS not being very good at equipment.
Yeah. Sounds fun. We had some hit pretty close, to us after we were out of the vehicle. So that was interesting.
But is that kind of indicative of what your years of travel with Mr. Marx is like?
Well, up until that point, it wasn't like that expressive.
Sure.
I mean, other stuff, it wasn't overseas and whatnot.
Gotcha.
But most of the overseas ones were similar, a little bit different. Sometimes they're a little bit different. So, like for instance, so that was my first one. That was like a 10-day trip. So now we move out to Colorado, right? Now we're there officially, like January 1, 2016.
Okay, you guys move. You and Monica, the family, you guys move.
We move, yeah. And Mr. Marx is like, hey, Happy New Year. He gives me a box of 9mm rounds because I'm a martial arts junkie, and I've shot a firearm like 5 times in my life up until that point. And we're going back to Iraq in June or July. The nice months during summer.
Well, what's nice is how nice and cool it stays.
Yeah, just how nice and cool it stays.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mostly long sleeves packed, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yes. And
Actually, probably because of the sun. So.
Probably, yeah, actually, true.
Yeah.
So he's like, hey, you need some practice. He's like, go practice because you're going to be one of the guys carrying while we're overseas. And so I had to learn how to shoot and kind of apply my black belt stuff to firearms training.
Sure.
And so he gave me like, I don't know, there's like 1,000 rounds are in a case. However many 9mm rounds are in a case of ammo.
I buy them by the 1,000.
Okay, yeah, so it's 1,000. Boom. So he gave me 1,000.
Honestly, it's just because they, buy bulk, right?
Yeah.
Lowers your cost.
Lowers your cost completely. Yeah. So that's my New Year's Christmas gift from Mr. Marx. Like, hey, go learn how to shoot better, Jeff. And so I did. And so that next trip that we went on was supposed to be a 2-month trip.
Oh.
So this was a much longer one. Like we were then establishing connections with all the refugee camps. So, well, they're IDP camps. They're indigenous displaced people. Right? If we just moved the tent to another country, then it would be a refugee because you're not in your country. But an IDP is for people that are no longer have a home, but they're in a tent. And so there's 4.2 million people displaced in Iraq during that time. And so we were kind of traveling around, doing a bunch of stuff there. We were going into the refugee camps, offering support. We developed a little stuffed animal that was a lion and a lamb with an audio device, and played clinically designed music to soothe. So it was soothing music, in like it was Arabic music, and then it was in Arabic. Some of them we did in Kurdish as well, and then prayers and scripture would come on every couple minutes. So it was like an hour-long audio that they could listen to, and so we passed out about 30,000 of those with
just helping to calm kids going through trauma but also introduce them to the Lord.
Yeah. Yep. And then we would get kind of contacted a couple of those times by General Mustafa or whatnot, like, hey, I forget that kid's name. I don't remember this kid's name. Anyways, so there was a baby that they collected because parents got shot down by ISIS, and so all of a sudden, one of General Mustafa's guys runs out. He gets killed. They finally get the kid out of there, and I think they named the baby after the guy. But then they brought that baby to us and was like, we don't know what to do, and so. We found out the lineage of that family, and then we're able to figure out. We had some connection with intel stuff to be able to be like, okay, what tribe, and like where can we take this? And so we reunited. We got to do that a couple times. And then there was this amazing one with this young gal that actually Dave Eubank saved. That, and then he brought to us, kind of for like rehabilitation, and then so we brought this little girl in. She had been hiding under her mom's hijab. Mom was dead. She was in a sniper alley where ISIS was just shooting any civilians, kind of walking through that alley. And so she was under her mom's hijab for like 2 days. And we actually it was a combination of General Mustafa and Dave Eubank working together to go get her, and then got her out, and then got her to us. And then she wouldn't talk. She wasn't responsive. And it's actually really cool. Another kind of, I heard the Lord. So we're packing for Iraq. We're going to be there for 2 months. The Marx's kids come with us. 13 and 14. Son and daughter. They come with us. And Eileen, Mrs. Marx, she's like, we need to bring, we're going to bring soap bubbles. And he's like, what? We're gonna bring some soap bubbles, like, when you bubbles. We're gonna bring bubbles.
Bubbles.
Okay, so like, she's got like 8 or 9 bottles of bubbles, and so that's a legitimate amount of space in the packing of all the things that we're taking. And he's just like, why? She's like, I think we're gonna need bubbles. Like, I don't know, like we need them, and so sure enough, like this girl who's non-responsive, hasn't said anything, doesn't look or talk to anybody. They're hanging out with the Marx's kids, and they break out the bubbles, and they start blowing bubbles with this little girl, and they start popping them, and she starts looking around. She starts looking at the bubbles, popping them. She starts smiling. She starts laughing at the bubbles, and we actually get her to start talking and communicating, and with bubbles, right? Like, who would have known? Like, bubbles would have an impact, but we needed bubbles there. And so, just from listening to the Lord, we had those bubbles, and I played a role in. I was the team house lockdown security guy, and so basically every night I had my AK, my Glock, and my headlamp, and I would go all through the whole place. We're in this one big team house that had like 14 rooms. So I'd go all the way up to the top, onto the ceiling.
Yeah.
Onto the ceiling, under the
roof.
The roof.
Yeah.
And make sure no one was up there, right? And then lock that, come down, lock the door. We had a bar on the door and stuff, and so I had to stay up until our any of the last team members came in. And then I was sleeping on the couch in the front room. So I was kind of first line of defense.
Yeah, your first contact.
First contact.
Yeah.
And a lot of we've gotten a lot of flack for stuff that we did over there from certain sides, like, oh, you say you're a missionary, but you're carrying weapons.
Yeah, you're a missionary with ARs and Glocks and
yeah, and so I always, when I tell people, I'm like, hey, there's a complete difference between suffering for the Lord and the manifestation of evil.
Mm-hmm.
2 different things. If we went to one of the refugee camps and like they turned on us and started picking up stuff and throwing it at us, like, yeah, we'll just leave. We'll let them pelt us with stones or whatever. Like, we'll just leave.
Yeah.
But if at night an ISIS unit kicks in our front door, comes to kill all of us and rape and pillage, we're gonna stop them.
Yeah.
We're not gonna suffer for the Lord. We're gonna let them get introduced to the Lord
right
in that moment.
Yeah.
And there's a distinct
That's
difference.
where you arrange that.
That's
immediate introduction.
That's where you arrange that meeting. Let me introduce you to somebody.
Yeah.
And so that's always been my standpoint, especially teaching martial arts and being in a faith-based martial arts. People are always asking, how can you teach people to hurt somebody? I'm like, when you look at it the right way, you have to be you have to be able to take care of your family. You're not going to just let somebody
Correct.
hurt your family right in front of you and not do anything. So, so that's what I was doing while I was there, and I was I didn't do a ton of traveling out into the field that time, just because we had the kids at the house, and so
Sure.
I was their primary. So I was kind of hanging with them, making sure things were good. We got to go out and do different stuff. Yeah, that was that. So that ended up only being a month trip for me. So I ended up coming back early, and actually actually I actually surprised my wife. I got on an international flight, a 20-hour flight, and was able to surprise my wife and come back, without her suspecting that I was coming back. So Chaz, one of the other guys, had to come back for something. And so I was traveling with him, and Chaz had some equipment. And so we landed at like Denver at like midnight. And Chaz told Monica, he's like, I have to drop this stuff off to you tonight, Monica. I'm sorry, I've got to come at like 1:30 or whatever. And he's dropping me off,
Right.
which was funny. My parents were actually in Colorado. They decided to come up and visit Monica, while I was going to be gone for 2 months, but
Yeah.
I got to come back a little bit early on that one. So spent a month there, and it was really interesting. I came back and decompressed, and that was an interesting process. That was me staying up late at night, getting introduced to America's Got Talent, which I didn't have any idea about, and the things called the golden buzzers.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it was about the golden buzzer and somebody getting their golden buzzer moment, but I would just cry at the golden buzzer moments, and I don't cry a ton, but it was just like I'm in a position where like I need to cry a little bit and process some stuff.
Right.
So I did that through AGT and watching the golden buzzer moments, and having a little decompressive moment, and yeah, it was. I have such a profound respect for our military, because what I did was in no way a comparison to what they do,
Right.
but it showed me like a window
Mm-hmm.
of what it is, because I had anxiety. I had a couple PTSD ticks where like I was visibly flinching from some sound or whatnot, just for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it was just enough to go, man, they deal with that crap when they come back
Mm-hmm.
habitually, right?
You got to see a piece of it. They're in all of it.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine trying to experience a little of that, understanding that they're going through all of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and I get to work with incredible military guys all the time, and so I'm super thankful for the service that they do, because it's tough. And probably one of the hardest parts of the trip was coming back. Then having this experience, and I don't know if you've had anything like this where it's hard to explain a rose to someone who's like blind and can't smell.
Mm-hmm.
Like how do you explain a rose to someone that's blind and can't smell? Like that'd be really hard.
Yeah.
And that's what it's like going to Iraq. How do you explain? How do I, right? Because my wife wanted to know about the trip, and it's like okay, I can. There's only so much you can say when it's like seeing it, the smells, the sounds, the different colors. I mean, there was probably the hardest part was not being able to communicate like a lot of the things that happen, and just the differences in what it was. But man, it was super super incredible, and that was my second time going overseas.
How many times total did you go over?
4.
Gotcha.
The other ones were all 10 to 15 days. and it was my last one where we went into Syria. And so we did this whole ISIS got this is I don't even know what year, but this is a couple years after, or this is after ISIS got ran out of Mosul. So now they're in Syria, and they had a stronghold there, and they got ran out of Syria. But all the ISIS wives and children couldn't just dissipate back into society because they stick out. And so they took about 50,000 women and children down to a refugee camp called Camp Al Hol, which was designed to hold like 10,000 people. And they turned it into a confinement camp.
Who's they?
The Syrian people, the army, like the Syrian
generically
government.
called the Syrian government.
Syrian government
Takes 50,000 people and puts them into a place intended for 10,000 people in a confinement camp.
In a confinement camp. So all ISIS wives and children. And so, I mean, these are just a hated people.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, there's no love for these women and children at all. Like, so much so, like, there were some groups, some tribes that would tell the daughters. So, like, here you have a daughter who gets taken by ISIS. She becomes an ISIS wife.
Mm-hmm.
She becomes a sex slave, has a child. Her tribe is like, you can come back.
But you can't bring the kid.
Can't bring the kid. And others couldn't even come back. Like,
right.
You get written off from your.
As if they chose that. For their lives.
As if they chose it. They're completely holding it against them, and which is just terrible. So, so we get word about this camp and how they don't have the right amount of supplies. They don't have a lot of things because no one's supporting them. Right? No one's putting extra money towards the ISIS wives. And so we're like, hey, that sounds like a place we should go and do what we can. And so we plan this trip into Syria. I almost had a Syrian birthday. I was like, I'm gonna be in Syria on May 7th. I was so excited. I'm like, all right, and I missed it. So it was we got stuck in Kurdistan at the border.
Gotcha.
They wouldn't let us across on that day. So I still had an Iraqi birthday. So that was still good. In where were we? Dahuk. We were up in Dahuk in northern Iraq. And so here we are. We've got 2 armored vehicles. We've got some armament. And we're at the border to go into Syria. And we've got papers from the Kurdistan government that says, hey, we're saying that this group is okay to bring their vehicles and armor and stuff into Syria if you're allowing. They're like, this is our letter of, hey, we would ask that you let them in, right. kind of thing. And so one, that didn't work. They said no. You can't bring your vehicles, and you can't bring any weapons. So that was a bit of a decision that we had to make on the fly, and that took. I think Mr. Marx took about a half hour to go walk and pray on that before he made the decision of, hey, I think we're supposed to go in. And so we made that decision. So one of the major problems was the Tigris River was flooding.
It's over its banks.
Yeah, and actually the bridge that you're supposed to drive across into Syria was washed out. The bridge was gone. And so, like, we're looking, like, I can see the Syrian immigration building from where we are. Like, it's just across the river. But we have to get these guys to come pick us up in vans and drive us like 2 hours to get to that spot. It takes like 2 hours for us to do that. Then we spend a lot of time at the Syrian border trying to check in, and we've got 48 hours. So this was on a I can't remember if they do holiday on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, or just Saturday and Sunday. Anyways, at like 2:00 on Friday, I think, they will close down the border and go on holiday, which is just the weekend.
Right.
But it's, half day on Friday, Saturday and Sunday, holiday.
It's closed.
It's closed. All right. Our flight home was Sunday. Okay. And nor did we want to get stuck in Syria.
Right.
At all, because there were still certain commanders there that were out to get American people. So we didn't want to get word to get to them that we were there, or that could have been really bad. So we're on a timeline, and so we have to get through the Syrian border. We do all of that. We actually have this really interesting encounter with the Asaish, who's basically the Syrian intelligence on the police side. And so here's another little interesting moment when Mr. Marx was like, "Hey Jeff, I know we're going into Syria. We actually had a dog with us. We had a canine, a Dutch Shepherd, trained little dog, and Mr. Marx was like, Jeff, why don't you bring the bite sleeve? I'm like, which is, have you ever seen dogs yet?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. I'm like, you want me to bring the bite sleeve? He's like, yeah, just bring the bite sleeve. And I'm like, okay. Of all the things that I'm wanting to bring, I'm bringing the bite sleeve. And so all of a sudden this, uppity looking Syrian guy, two Syrian people recognize Mr. Marx as the gun disarm guy. They start walking over to us.
Right, because he's the fastest gun disarm in the world.
Yeah, and they actually start doing the gun fingers at us. And so we're freaked out because we're like, this doesn't look good at all. But it ended up being good, and they wanted to get selfies and stuff like that. But then the head guy of that comes down, and he's like, I want to buy your dog. How much? And we're like, oh boy, yeah. The dog's not for sale. He's like, no. Tell me price. I'll pay it. And so Mr. Marx navigated that conversation and was like, hey, we can't do that, but why don't I do a demo for you and your whole team? They're like, oh, that sounds good. So we go over in front of the official building, and all the staff come rolling out. And so, I've got the sleeve, and we've got Reagan, our little dog. And we put on a little bite demo show for them, right there in Syria at the border. And, they were all good to go. He left us his number and said, call me if you guys need anything, blah, blah, blah.
Nice.
And, so then we head on, and we're traveling with Dave Eubank. He's over there already, and he's helping us, and he's prepping us for failure. Because he's like, oh, hey, guys. He's like, yeah. So he's like, hey, I know the person that you need to talk to. He's like, I talked to them, and it took me about 30 days to get authorization to go into the Syrian camp. He's like, so I'm just preparing you for that. And so we get to the hotel, the 5-star hotel, which is cockroach infested type place. It's like worse than one. It's a no star here. So the next morning we're up early. We're going to the officials. We get authorization in 2 hours.
That's wild.
To go in. So 2 or 3 hours. But our timetable this is Friday. This is it's 8 a.m. in the morning. We've got to drive 2 hours, go do the thing, and then drive another 2.5 hours to get to the border. And so we're driving down, and everything's just taking a long time. We finally get in. We get to talk to the camp person, make a relationship. We had a bunch of lion and lambs that we had shipped there, so we dropped that in. But we created a relationship to do some stuff there, and we start driving back, and it's 3 o'clock before we start driving back. It's already closed. We get there at 5:30. No one is out there. And so we had that number from that guy, and we called that guy, and we're like, hey, we're trying to get back across the border. Can you help us? And he was like, yes, but you have to get authorization from the Iraqi side to allow me to bring you over. So we had to call one of our contacts there to get them to go get them to do that. And they said yes. So then we get in this little dinghy on the Tigris River. And if the Tigris River is running this way, the boat that we were on was pointed this way.
Yeah, you're pointing upstream.
Upstream. We're literally pointing up and moving sideways.
Right.
Like this. Like that's how fast it's running. And so, we make it in, we make it back to our vehicles. We're able to get back in. It was like the longest day of my life. Like from before the sun came up till after, because then it's like another 4-hour drive back home, and I can remember I'm sitting in shotgun, and I'm doing these tension exercises where I'm like exhaling all my breath out and then pushing it out really hard so that it makes everything tense up and flex just so that I can stay awake, because I can't fall asleep. It's just Hassan and I. Everybody else is sleeping. I just keeping myself awake after a really long, trying day.
Right. Your security. You're sitting up front. Everyone else is asleep.
Yes.
You cannot.
I cannot
close those eyes.
I cannot. No, not at all. And we made it back safe on that trip, and created a relationship did some amazing things there.
That's awesome, man.
And I mean, those were all the Iraq stuff. There's not too much else to really
No, good.
cover there. There's Cambodia stuff in South America, but
And still just kind of humanitarian stuff. Maybe not quite the environment of the humanitarian work that you're doing there, but in the Iraqs and Syrias and whatnot. But I mean, it's still extreme humanitarian work.
Cambodia was specifically counter trafficking.
Oh, okay.
So we had a safe house there. We had a gal that was a director that was pulling girls out of the sex industry because it's legal there.
Gotcha.
So people can do it, but they're still traffickers.
Right.
So like the traffickers are still pimping out the girls, even though it's legal. Like they're still doing it because they have the power on it. So we were liberating girls there and bringing them to a safe house. They were getting educated and whatnot. So like I got to go in there and I got to run some like martial art training courses with them.
So you've kind of told me a little bit about this. The first time we ever met was maybe not the martial arts in Cambodia, but just the significance of the path of rehabilitation and restoration for some of these people that you guys were able to intervene with.
Yes. Yeah. And so even though we were doing stuff like in Cambodia, we also had stuff that we were doing in the U.S. for trafficked individuals. And we had this weekend, and we called it the Samantha Weekend. It was named after the gal that we were working with. Her name's Samantha, and she was in the industry of getting people out of that type of, getting people out and restoration for them. And so we would put together a weekend event for these gals. And so Sam would supply us. He would bring in and vet the girls, make sure they're at the right place to come meet with us.
Gotcha.
Because we are not, there's people that shouldn't be coming to us yet.
Sure.
Like they need more, because what they're going to do with us is going to push their limits and a little bit beyond as part of their next step of healing. So we had we as in All Things Possible Ministries, Mr. Marx actually turned his home into the ATP Training Center. So he's got a 5-acre facility with multiple buildings, a firearms range, a airsoft shoot house, and a dojo and a training area.
Gotcha.
And so we bring these girls in. We've got the best guys in the world at our facility helping teach and train these girls. You've got me, you've got Mr. Marx, both top end, hand-to-hand combatives guys. We got some of the best jiu-jitsu guys. We've got special operators, guys that are there, former guys that were in Delta, stuff like that are helping teach some of these classes. But we're doing jiu-jitsu with the girls. They're learning how to do knife fighting. They're learning communication skills, leadership skills, team building skills. We take them shooting. They go through the airsoft stuff. They learn how to move as a team. Like they're moving through these airsoft houses, like, you know, shooting targets on the wall. And throughout the whole weekend, we've got legitimate, like, not legitimate, but real intel briefs, because people that were there on our team were the people that would give these intel briefs for real life scenarios. So we had a whole fictitious thing where we're giving these girls these intel injects about a potential girl that's being trafficked. And they're not really sure what they're supposed to do with this information other than just know what it is and like, oh, they're going to, you know, they're going to help in somehow, some way. So they're identifying it. They can ask questions. And it's the whole weekend they get these little injects. Well, by Sunday morning, the last day, they realize that they're going to be putting a team together and going and rescuing this girl. So we have a secondary site. And so what we're teaching them through the weekend is all the skill sets that they're going to use on this mission. Right. Okay. How to set up a team, how to do recon, how to move, how to go through a house. They're doing all those things. And so you've got these 12 women who've come in that are former victims or trafficked, right? And so they're they keep things super close. They don't just let people in.
Yeah.
So, and they do have, right? But none of the girls know each other really. So they're still standoffish. But by the time, like 48 hours after they come in, and we kind of drop the final thing to them, you guys here's your time constraint. The girl is going to be gone by 4:30 p.m. and it's 1:30 right now. You have from now until then to get her. Things that you should do is have some teams, so you need leaders. You should also go check and do a recon. Or I don't even think we tell them that. But we just tell them the parameters and say, you need to successfully go get this girl. And then we step back. And we're basically like battlefield coordinators. We're the bat phone that they can call. Like, hey, what should we do next? Or I can come in and kind of ask a couple pivotal questions that'll get them thinking the right way. Like, hey, so do you know if that gate is actually locked or not? And they'll be like, oh, no, we don't. We should probably find out if that gate is locked or not. Oh, yeah. So do you think someone should go ahead of the big group? Like, oh, yeah, we should send a recon team. Yeah, like, so then they're putting a recon team together and like going and being like, oh, no, the gate's locked or it's not locked. And so then they get all geared up and they've got all airsoft stuff. We've got actors on site. We usually throw an extra girl in there as well. And so there's like two girls. One of them's usually injured, so they got to put like a tourniquet on it or a bandage or something. And they go in there and tear the snot out of the guys that are there. The guys have replica. They only have replicas, so they can't shoot back. They can pretend to shoot back, but the girls just light us up. And they come back from rescuing that girl just on a massive high. Yeah. And so for a lot of them, we've heard them say this where they're like, man, only if someone had done that for me. And some of them were like, I was that girl, in that cage. And some of them said, I felt like I was rescuing myself in that moment. And it is by far one of the hardest weekends to go through because the girls a lot of times break down in certain moments, and you hear hard stories and you hear hard things, obviously. But it's just a great night, and they all get to share that night, about their experience and whatnot. And it is the most amazing thing that has a really incredible impact, right? We've done a weekend like that we did an executive one, for high net worth kind of executive guys and whatnot. And we had fun. But that was about it.
Gotcha. Yeah.
We had fun. We did some guy stuff. We had fun. We shot some stuff up. But no one was crying at the end. No one was crying at the end. No one was having,
Because they don't have relatable stories.
yeah,
Yeah.
no one was having like massive changes in their life from that event, and we were really seeing that, and so we actually stopped doing any of the other. we did a couple of them. We're like, oh, father son weekend, mother daughter, and we just did a season of doing Samantha groups. I think we did about 6 of them, 5 or 6 of them.
That's awesome. That's really cool that you guys do that.
So that's a big thing on my wife and I's heart for us to continue doing, which is I know something we'll talk about kind of in the next phase too of what we're going through.
Well, yeah.
But,
And now you transition out of that.
Yep.
Right. So, and you end up in Tennessee.
Yeah, I end up in Tennessee. So 5 months ago, my wife and I moved here in August, right? August. Yeah, somewhere around there. So moved here middle of August. So got to feel a little bit of the summer.
Yeah.
The waning summer, but
Yeah, they're not too bad here.
they're not too bad. And so I disengaged. As the ministry progressed, there was less and less need for someone in my position.
Sure.
And so I started traveling less. I started being around Mr. Marx less.
Mm-hmm.
And that just wasn't why I was there, right? I was there to be Mr. Marx's go-to guy, and it just kind of phased. That phase just was ending.
Sure.
And
part of that, right, was that phase of his life in ministry was transitioning.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I mean,
but actually, that kind of left you with a transition.
Left me with the transition. So they were going to cross-load me over to a different position, doing some different stuff, and I just wasn't as passionate about it. And so I was already dabbling in some financial service stuff, so I ended up getting some finance and insurance when I was going overseas because I needed to.
Sure.
And we were.
What kind of policies did you have when you were going overseas?
So we were getting emergency helicopter evacuation insurance that would specifically take us to Germany because they have a top trauma center. That's where.
Pretty standard. You go to Germany for medical.
Yep. And then we were also getting hostage and kidnap insurance while we were over there.
I've had a lot of different types of insurance policies.
Yeah.
Never any of those 3 types of policies.
Yes. So pretty unique set. We actually were connected with a guy named Daniel Holt. He was the pastor. He was the son of the pastor, one of the pastors we were connected with. Gotcha. And so I actually called up my insurance company when I wanted more insurance. I'm like, hey guys, yeah, I want to raise my policy. What do we need to do? And they were like, oh yeah, let's just have a conversation. And we had a conversation, and they were like, yeah, no. You are uninsurable, my friend.
You called for more insurance.
Yeah.
They ended your policy.
Yeah, they ended. Yeah. They were like, we can't because it's legally binding, but if we could, they were like, we would drop you. So I'm like, what do I do? So I called up Daniel. He got me into the policy I needed, but also got me started on a retirement plan and helped us with some financial literacy. So I'd been a client of that company for about 6 years, or I've been a client now 7. So probably like 3 years I'd been a client of the company when I approached Daniel to do some part-time work, just because this was right after COVID. So the cost of goods was crazy high, right? Yeah. Everything got 30% more expensive and no one got raises, right? I mean, it's just, and so we needed to make a little bit more money. And so I started doing some part-time stuff. So that's kind of what I went to when I disengaged from ATP. I still contracted with them that year. We still did another Samantha group together. even when I wasn't an employee. But got into the finance stuff, and then kind of in our company, there's different agency owners, kind of like I don't know how Compass is set up, but is it a franchise?
No, we're just still forever. We were a family company, and then and we're owned by a bank now that we just had a relationship with for 12 years or whatever. But yeah, no, we don't do like branch managers or franchise. We don't do any of that. So.
Okay.
But in the insurance world, and I know you do a lot more than just insurance, but insurance world, branch owners, things like that, pretty common. And some of the financial companies, kind of your big brand companies, they do that franchising and branch ownership type stuff. So.
Yeah. Okay. So our company was more like that. So there's leaders and agency owners all over the country. Well, we find out that a lot of our leaders are in Nashville. And my wife and I had just hit we became senior brokers last year.
Monica does this also.
So, yes, she does.
Yeah.
Yeah. So January of 23, I went full time, and in March of 23, I brought her on board. So
nice.
we gave the ministry about 3 months to replace Monica. Because she did a lot for the ministry.
Gotcha.
And so she runs my whole operations. She actually runs operations for multiple broker teams in the company. So she does that. So she's a phenomenal administrative, operations, licensing, relationship person. So I could definitely not do what I'm doing without her. So we get to work together, which is super cool. And we became senior brokers. We actually qualified for a really cool trip. We got to go on a little cruise from Long Beach to Catalina, down to Ensenada.
Wow. Out in Ensenada is where Stone Brewery's at.
Ooh.
That place, the restaurant is incredible. And I could be misspeaking here. They brought in a Michelin star chef to run that place. I mean, you walk in thinking you're going to a brewery and you're at just fine dining.
Oh, really?
And that's the place that my wife gives all the credit to for changing my view on Brussels sprouts.
Oh, really?
Up until then, I never ate Brussels sprouts.
No kidding.
And now I eat them, but I cook them at home the way they make them.
No kidding.
Yeah. So fun fact.
Fun fact.
Yeah. So the brewery out in Encinitas, which I've always called it Encinitas, but I like the idea of it Ensenada.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not from California, so I'll get all the names wrong. But there is an
Encinitas in Southern California.
Wait. So is Encinitas and not Ensenada? They're not the same?
No.
Y'all are confusing, man.
So Encinitas.
And I know you're here now. Yeah, I know you're a Tennessee guy.
Yeah.
And I'm also laying claim to being a Tennessee guy. I feel like I've been here. I've at least paid property taxes here long enough.
Yeah.
But
so Encinitas is a city just south of just south of Carlsbad.
Yeah.
Yes. So no.
But Ensenada's not the same?
No, Ensenada's in Mexico.
Oh, where did you start the cruise?
Long Beach.
So see,
yeah,
okay.
I see.
It was a much longer cruise than I thought.
I see how you got to where
We're going 45 minutes down the coast.
It'd be longer than 45. But see, in my head, I'm just like,
okay,
cool, cruise.
Yeah.
But longer cruise.
Yes.
So, by the way, Stone Brewery, not in Mexico.
Not in Mexico.
Only in California.
Still
responsible for my view on Brussels sprouts.
Cool. So next time I go visit my dad in Carlsbad,
100%.
I'm going to go to Encinitas.
You also got to go to Seaside Market in Cardiff by the Sea.
Oh, yeah.
And you get the Cardiff crack. It's their tri-tip that they do. And you can ship it here.
Okay.
But there, they just grill it up outside, do sandwiches with it, and it is nice. That was what introduced me to tri-tip, because tri-tip's a California thing, dude. They don't. It's a West Coast thing. It is tough to find tri-tip here that's not pre-marinated at Costco.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So fun facts.
Yeah.
But you get
Santa Maria tri-tip. That's Santa Maria seasoning, right?
Right.
I've been there. So you know where Santa Maria is?
Yeah, not in Mexico.
It's right, right next to Lompoc.
Oh, okay.
They're right next to each other.
I love it. So you're. I mean, talk about your world change and going from being like, my trips are going over on humanitarian efforts in the refugee camps and these IDPs, to now I'm in financial services and we're just on a nice little river cruise.
Yeah,
or out on, maybe it's a coastal cruise.
Yeah, no, for sure. And Yeah, way different type of trip. But and we were on that cruise with about 30 people from the company and 3 of the top leaders of the company, just shooting the breeze, hanging out on the cruise. They were like, "Hey, we're gonna go do trivia at this spot on the cruise. Then we're gonna come over here, and then we're sitting around talking, playing spades." He's like, "You know how to play hearts? Cool. We get a group of 4 playing hearts and just relaxing and hanging out with everybody." And we just felt so welcome. I mean, it was like, oh man, we had such a good connection with people. We're like, wow. One of the things that we didn't feel really big was we didn't have a ton of super significant connections. We had some
in Colorado.
We had some relationships and seasons of relationships, but nothing long term that really lasted. And all of a sudden we're like, wow, these people are super awesome, quality guys, and it really kind of was like, oh wow, like they're all within 15 to 35 minutes of where we are right now.
Gotcha.
And so we were like, maybe we should, go out to that. And then we went to our big convention. So we had about 32,000 agents in Las Vegas for their annual convention, and got to meet a bunch of other people, and basically made the decision right after that, like, hey, our manager was moving. Our main guy that we worked with in Colorado, Daniel, he was going to move there. And he's like, hey, you guys should come with us. And we checked with we had sold our house like 2 years prior to that because it was right when things were coming down. And so we were renting, and our lease was up. It was going to be up in like 2 months. And so we secured a place here, and we had no overlap. We had like 10 days of overlap.
That's wild.
Like, that's how nicely it was kind of like, let's just put this in a bow, and so we're now we're here. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I think is really interesting is, man, we've been here 5 months, and one, we've met a lot of really good quality people. But 2, we've been to, like, those 3 leaders that I was telling you about. I've been to each. So one of them, I've been to their house 3 times. The other one, I've been to twice. And another one we've been to once. We've also been invited to the Standard 3 times by club members.
Which is a great place.
Yeah. It's really, It's a great place to have a cigar upstairs.
It's a great spot to have a cigar upstairs.
If you have a box.
Yep.
Right. So like, we've been there 3 times. That's in the 5 months that we've been here, which is a small amount of time to go to that many different people's places. And so we love that.
Yeah.
And then, so now we're kind of here doing that, and I'm already connected with a church. So we're down at Hope UC, and one of the things that we really felt like we lacked was those church connections. Like, I was traveling all the time in Colorado, and so it was like trying to get Monica to go to church, and I'm not even there half the time. It was tough. So we kind of went to one of the big churches that Monica loved to go to, and we could just show up and whatnot. But we definitely didn't want Tennessee to be like that.
Right.
So we really want to take a relational phase in our life. Mm-hmm. And now that I don't travel, well, I still travel, but I'm not traveling like I was before. It's different. It's a different type of travel, like you said, which has been interesting. I've traveled more. One of the biggest blessings about what I'm doing now is the time freedom that it's offered me and my wife. In our first 10 years of marriage, we went on 1 vacation. In the last 2 years, we've done like 6 of them to different places. Destin, Florida. I mean, here. Gotten to go up in the mountains of Colorado multiple times. Ensenada. We've got one from the agency owner is going to take us to. We get to go to Italy. He's got like a castle or something in Italy.
Yeah, castle.
Yeah. Something like that.
You don't have one of those?
Yeah, I don't have one of those.
Yeah, but you got a castle.
I do.
So,
It's pretty small though.
It's very small. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're gonna.
It's built out of
Yeah.
Legos.
So the
on the
Legos,
shelf.
yeah, just sits on the
Right.
shelf. But we're gonna get to go out there. He takes like 100 people a year out there or something, to just do mentorships.
Yeah.
And but probably the biggest blessing for me was that year that January 23, when I separated from the ministry and was full time running my business.
Mm-hmm.
My mom had a really rough year, and my mom has been sick for about a decade.
Oh, okay.
And so, man, she was at like the hospital, surgeries.
Mm-hmm.
One surgery led to them finding out that she's got congenital heart failure. They're putting a pacemaker in. And so beginning of May rolls around, and my dad calls me and says, "Hey, mom's in the hospital again, and they're talking about her going into hospice afterwards." And he said, and it's not looking great. And this was like on Tuesday, or maybe it was a Wednesday, and he's like, they're supposed to discharge her from the hospital over the weekend. So I think it was Wednesday. Either or. They're supposed to, and he's like, you should probably come out. And so my wife was like, she's like, babe, why wait? Like, what are you doing the next couple of days that you can't just wipe off your calendar? And I'm like, nothing. And so I just bought a one-way ticket. So I bought a one-way ticket to California and got to go hang out with my dad. And my sisters and family for that last like 10 days that my mom was here, and got her into hospice and took care of her, and she got to come home for one more day. And so she passed away in our house, and then I stayed for about another week or week and a half with my dad.
Yeah.
And so blessed to be able to have the freedom to be able to go and do that and be there for my dad.
Yeah.
And my sisters, as well. But so important. And not only that, I was able to travel back home for every single holiday from 2023 to 2024. So like Easter, Christmas, Thanksgiving, New Year's, 4th of July, all of those, I got on a plane and spent like, I just fly in and spend like the week with my dad.
Nice.
And still be able to, I had my, I'm staying in like my old bedroom,
Right.
running meetings here and there, keeping kind of the business afloat and
Yeah,
moving,
doing what you got to do,
but then spending tons of
the
quality
freedom
time.
to
Yeah.
spend time with your dad
So,
after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, and I just so glad I wouldn't have been able to do that to that extent and that freedom. I mean, Mr. Marx would have given me all the time in the world to go out there when my mom was dying. I mean, obviously, but just in the after stuff, like going back home, like that, I probably wouldn't have been able to do it that many times. And so I'm so thankful that like that was really great timing, so that I could spend a lot of quality time with my dad and my sisters and whatnot. So yeah, probably one of the most impactful and things that I'm thankful for transitioning at the time that I did.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so it's been really good, and I'm excited to be here, right? And getting to meet the people that I'm meeting, and it's amazing. My wife likes it. She doesn't like the wasps. I will say that.
The red ones they're just mean, and they hurt real bad when they sting you.
Yes. Yes.
Just saying.
And then there's like the yellow ones too. Like
I'm allergic, so I just
Ah.
I'm on site.
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So in our apartment complex, they were just like building nests in the apartment complex, and then they were just treating the sidewalks like they were buzzing the tower, just and we have 2 dogs, and so my wife walks the dogs like 4 or 5 times in a day, and she was terrified every time she was walking. So we got
They're so big, and I'm just telling you, if you have not gotten hit by one yet,
yeah.
they just hurt so much extra compared to anything I ever lived with in the Midwest.
No kidding. Yeah.
The bugs here,
Huge.
they're prehistoric here. Like there's just like right now it's cold out,
Yeah.
but it's like you don't get like your deep frost, just extended, like everything dies
Right.
winter like we got in the Midwest.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they just keep growing here.
Just keep growing.
I've had a beetle crawl across my patio, and I stepped on it, and it didn't die. Like I was like, I think it picked my foot up and pushed back. Like they are prehistoric here, and the further
yeah.
you go south, the worse it gets.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, like
Shoot.
being down in we're in Florida, and there was this just fatty cockroach, and my wife was beside herself.
Oh, you guys got one too?
Mm.
Yeah, and but here's the thing: like you go south, and they just kind of live everywhere.
Yeah.
It just is what it is. It's not a big deal. North, where it gets so cold, right? And we're from far west suburbs of Chicago, right? I'm actually from a cornfield halfway to Iowa, but like you get up north, you don't have cockroaches unless you're that filthy, hot environment for them to thrive in.
Right.
So growing up north, if you got cockroaches, that's the sign of you're disgusting.
That's on you.
You go south, and they're just like sitting at the door to the convenience store, waiting for you to open it up and let them in. They're just like, oh, welcome to our house.
Welcome.
Right? So, but yeah, they're gross, dude. So, welcome to the South.
Yeah. Very good.
We're some of the newer members in the last handful of years. So,
So that's it. Yeah. That's
the first place you got to serve is the welcome committee.
Yeah.
But no, dude, man, we're happy that you're here, dude. And it's a wild story. Like God continues to. Man, like what he wrote in your life so far, that's the significance of being able to tell it, man. Is like there's people from all different angles and different walks going to be able to relate to that. And I just encourage you to keep telling your story.
Yeah. No, man. Kind of the ending capstone is we want to be established here so we can
replicate that.
Replicate that Samantha weekend. Like that is our heart. To where I know there's a lot of it in ministries here in the Nashville area. That's really our ultimate goal is we want to be able to provide an event and an experience for those women that was just like what we did in the ministry. And that's going to be so incredible.
Yeah. And we've got some you and I need to get together and get you introduced to a handful of other like sages and nonprofit heads around here because we've got a good community of those. So
yeah,
that's as you're able to, you and your wife are able to kind of develop that.
Yeah.
Then we got to get you introduced to Lance, my buddy Lance, who's got some property that would immediately serve to be able to facilitate some of those things, and I know he'd be on board with that.
Okay.
Him and Brendan. So
yeah.
But yeah, so we'll get you connected with anybody we can, and
Yeah.
God is going to open whatever doors you need, man. And
Yeah, for sure.
10 years from now, we'll sit down, or 5 years from now, or 2 years from now, we'll sit down, we'll do this again, and you'll be able to tell us all about how those came back to fruition and what God's doing there, man. But yeah, dude, thanks, bro.
That'll be amazing. No, thank you so much for having me on.
Dude,
Appreciate it. Yeah.
It was a lot, dude. It's a lot. That is a lot, bro.
Yeah.
That's awesome, dude. So, no, man, I'm grateful for you, dude.
Awesome.